The city breathed in neon its lifeblood, a relentless pulse of flickering advertisements, digital billboards, and the constant murmur of a populace addicted to the spectacle of true crime. Alex Mercer stepped off the elevated train platform. The synthetic rain cooled against his skin despite the absence of actual precipitation. Above him, Halley ads for the latest livestream murder events cast eerie glows on his leather jacket, each promising thrills soaked in blood and controversy. Ducking into an alley to avoid the prying eyes of surveillance drones, Alex checked his comlink. No new messages. The city was alive with the chatter of thousands glued to their screens, voting, commenting, and feeding the insatiable beast of public voyeurism. He had seen it all before, yet every time he immersed himself in this world, a knot tightened in his stomach. His office was a cramped chamber nestled between towering megastructures, place where shadows gathered and secrets whispered. The walls bore the scars of forgotten cases and fading memories. As he settled into the worn leather chair, the door slid open with a soft hiss. She stepped in quietly, her presence cutting through the stale air like a blade. Lila, the name was as enigmatic as the woman herself. Jet black hair framing a pale face, eyes like dark amethysts flickering with a cocktail of fear and defiance. She carried herself with the wary grace of someone accustomed to hiding, yet unwilling to disappear. "Mr. Mercer," she said softly, voice trembling just enough to betray her composure. "I need your help." Alex gestured to the chair opposite him, watching as she sat carefully, her gaze never settling but darting around the room as though the walls themselves might eavesdrop. "Threats," she began, "messages in my inbox, on the forums, even in the comments of live streams. They say, my death is already scheduled, that it's been voted on." Her voice cracked like a fragile glass. Alex frowned, intrigued and wary. "Scheduled, voted on. You mean like some twisted popularity contest?" She nodded, pulling out a holopad. The screen flickered to life, displaying a brutal interface, a countdown clock, a tally of votes, and a live chat feeding frenzy. "This is the Killstream platform, the most watched channel in the city. They decide who dies next." Alex leaned closer, eyes scanning the data. The date was no more than a week away. The votes were climbing steadily, the public obsessed with the impending event. "This isn't just a death threat," he murmured. "It's a sentence." The air in the room thickened, charged with a mixture of fear and disbelief. Alex realized that Lila's plight was not an isolated nightmare, but a symptom of a society numbed and enthralled by digital bloodlust. That night, Alex wandered the neon-lit streets, the city's digital heartbeat echoing in his mind. Screens everywhere showcased gruesome previews and fan theories, the public's appetite insatiable. Somewhere in this maze of light and shadow, a sinister game was unfolding, one where life itself was currency for entertainment. Determined to uncover the truth and intervene, Alex knew the road ahead was perilous. The line between spectator and participant had blurred, and the stakes were deadly real. As the first chill of dawn crept over the horizon, the city's neon glow faded into a haunting vaporwave, haze beautiful, synthetic, and utterly devoid of mercy. The game had begun. Alex's fingers hovered above the holopad, scrolling through endless streams of comments. The public was merciless, their votes a cold echo chamber of cruelty. He tapped into underground forums, tracing the origins of the threats, piecing together fragments of digital breadcrumbs. Each revelation tightened the noose around Lila's fate. "You don't understand," Lila whispered during their next meeting, eyes darting nervously. "It's not just some sick joke. The platform controls everything. The votes, the timing, even the live stream itself. They want this to be a spectacle. Alex nodded grimly. Then we're not just fighting for your life, we're fighting a system. The neon city hummed around them, a vast machine indifferent to individual pain. As Alex stepped back into the rain-soaked streets, he felt the weight of unseen eyes, the flicker of cameras hidden in every corner. The client's shadow stretched long and dark, a harbinger of the twisted world they were about to unravel, and the clock was ticking. His investigation had barely begun, yet already the city's pulse seemed to quicken, syncing with the countdown that promised death as entertainment. The voyeuristic hunger of the public was a force unlike any other, a tide threatening to drown reason and mercy alike. Alex Mercer was no stranger to darkness, but this was something else entirely, a world where murder was programmed. Votes were verdicts, and the line between justice and spectacle had vanished into the digital abyss. The client's shadow loomed large, and Alex was caught in its cold embrace, staring down the inevitable with a clenched jaw and a flicker of defiance in his weary eyes. The Killstream had begun. Alex Mercer sat alone in his cluttered apartment, the faint hum of the city seeping through cracked windows. Neon signs flickered outside, casting erratic pulses of pink and teal across his desk, where multiple holographic screens floated, each streaming data faster than the eye could follow. At the center, a live feed of Lila's social media profiles scrolled endlessly, the numbers climbing like an uncontrollable wildfire. Her face was everywhere, in bright, saturated filters, in morbid memes, in heated debates across forums and chat rooms. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Something wasn't right. The spikes in her mentions, the sudden surge of followers, the polarized reactions flooding the comments. They weren't organic. It was as if an invisible hand was fanning the flames of a digital bonfire, orchestrating public opinion to a fever pitch. The room was dark, except for the glow of the screens. The chatter from his comlink buzzed softly, a message from Myra, his trusted digital analyst and contact in the tech underground. They had agreed to meet tonight. He needed her expertise to cut through the noise and see the machinery behind the madness. The cafe was a stark contrast to his apartment, alive with neon advertisements pulsating on walls and holograms dancing above tables. The air smelled of burnt coffee and synthetic spices. Mira sat in the corner, her augmented reality glasses reflecting scrolling code as she connected a data spike to her neural interface. "It's worse than we thought," she said, voice low but urgent. "The voting system is a sham. Bots and fake accounts are inflating the numbers, creating a false consensus." Alex's jaw tightened. So the public vote on Lila's fate. It's a lie, exactly. But the platform's algorithms feed on this hype. They amplify the spectacle, making it irresistible. The more people engage, the bigger the show becomes. Outside, the city throbbed with life, and the appetite for true crime spectacle grew insatiable. Alex left the cafe and wandered through the crowded, neon-lit marketplace. Digital billboards flashed announcements of Lila's scheduled murder. Livestream, the biggest event on the media calendar. People in augmented reality visors watched as they walked, their eyes glazed with a mixture of fascination and detachment. The cacophony of voices and electronic noise pressed in on him. This wasn't just a murder. It was a public execution shaped by digital culture and addiction. The lines between justice and entertainment had blurred beyond recognition. Back in his apartment, Alex stared at the countdown timer projected onto the wall, the seconds slipping away with merciless precision. The weight of the impending event settled around him like a suffocating fog. He knew the system was rigged, but exposing it would make him a target. Yet, doing nothing was no longer an option. "We have to find a way to break the cycle," he muttered, "before it's too late." As the digital clock ticked down, the city's dark heart beat louder, a symphony of voyeurism, manipulation, and a public unwilling to look away. Alex Mercer was caught in its rhythm, racing against time to unravel the viral verdict that threatened to claim Lila's life in the name of entertainment. But with every moment, the algorithm's grip tightened, and the question remained, could one man dismantle a spectacle engineered for death? Or was he doomed to become just another player in the Killstream? The rain thrummed against the grimy window pane of Alex Mercer's apartment as neon signs flickered sporadically across the skyline. Outside, the city pulsed with the endless hum of digital life, a ceaseless stream of data and images that had become the lifeblood of a society addicted to spectacle. Alex sat hunched over his workstation, the glow of multiple monitors casting shifting shadows on his tired face. His fingers danced across the keyboard, navigating through layers of encrypted firewalls and code that seemed designed to deter any curious mind. But curiosity was his tool, an obsession his companion. Lila's case weighed heavily on him. The woman who had walked into his office days ago, her violet hair a stark contrast to the darkened streets, had confided in him a secret that chilled the spine of even the most jaded detective. Her murder was scheduled, voted on by the public, and set to be broadcast as the next big event in the world's most watched true crime livestream platform. But something deeper lurked beneath the surface, something sinister that turned the public's voyeurism into a weapon. His investigations had led him to the underbelly of the web, a shadow network where votes weren't just cast by individuals, but manipulated en masse. As he decrypted the layers of digital camouflage, a pattern emerged evidence of coordinated interference, algorithmic puppeteering designed to inflate interest, sway opinion, and ultimately control the narrative. The more Alex dug, the darker the truth grew. This was no mere social experiment or a sick game of popularity. It was a calculated enterprise, a digital empire thriving on human obsession and despair. The scheduled murders were the product of a machinery that blurred the lines between entertainment and real violence, turning victims into commodities and the public into willing accomplices. One sleepless night, as the city's neon glow seeped through the window blinds, Alex accessed a hidden virtual chat room. The air in his cramped apartment felt thick, heavy with the weight of unseen eyes. The room's screen flickered, avatars jittering with glitch effects, voices distorted into unrecognizable tones. Here, the architects of the carnage spoke with chilling amusement about their control over public perception and the mechanics of their vote manipulation. They were digital puppeteers, pulling strings from the shadows, their motives cloaked in anonymity and power. Alex's heart pounded as he realized the scale of what he faced. Each vote was a thread in their web, each cheer a note in their symphony of control. The public's appetite for true crime, their insatiable thirst for spectacle, had been weaponized, turned into a tool for domination and profit. Yet amidst the growing dread, a spark of determination ignited within him. He couldn't let Lila become just another statistic, another pixel in their twisted broadcast. He had to expose the puppeteers, unravel the digital veil, and confront the system feeding on humanity's darkest impulses. But as he sat back, rubbing his eyes, a notification blinked on his screen. Subtle but unmistakable sign, he was being watched. The network had noticed his intrusion. The game had changed. And now, Alex was no longer just an observer. He was a target. The city outside buzzed with oblivious life. neon lights reflecting the endless cycles of consumption and distraction. Inside, the detective steeled himself for the long fight ahead, knowing that in a world addicted to digital death, survival meant outmaneuvering ghosts in the machine. The countdown to Lila's fate continued, and the shadows behind the screens grew ever longer. Alex's next moves would determine not only her life, but the fragile thread between truth and spectacle that held society together. And somewhere in the depths of the network, the puppeteers watched, waiting for the next act to unfold. The neon glow of the city was more than illumination. It was an omnipresent pulse, throbbing with the insatiable hunger for true crime spectacle. Alex Mercer moved through the crowded streets, his senses assaulted by holographic billboards flashing the latest livestream ratings, viewer counts ticking upward like a countdown to chaos. The air was thick with electric buzz and murmurs of anticipation, the whole metropolis seemingly holding its breath for the next brutal broadcast. He adjusted the collar of his jacket as he entered the media hub, a sprawling complex that housed rival factions battling for dominance in the lucrative true crime livestream market. The scent of synthetic ozone mingled with stale caffeine, and everywhere he looked, screens glowed with violent imagery, chat windows exploded with frenzied commentary, and digital avatars danced in advertisements promising the next big event. Alex's objective was clear: confront Rex Voss, the enigmatic CEO of one of the largest competing factions, and glean what he could about the forces orchestrating Lila's scheduled murder. But the stakes were higher than ever. Rex wasn't just a businessman. He was a kingpin in a game where lives were currency and ratings were the ultimate prize. Entering the sleek conference room, Alex found Rex waiting, his sharp jawline illuminated by the soft neon frames of the glass walls. Around them, holographic graphs and viewer stats floated in midair, climbing steadily as the crowd's obsession with true crime escalated. Alex Mercer, Rex greeted, his voice smooth but cold. "I hear you're meddling in affairs beyond your pay grade." Alex met his gaze steadily. "I'm just trying to understand the game, and maybe find a way to stop it." Rex laughed, a sound void of warmth. "The game doesn't stop because you want it to. It's bigger than any one person or victim. Our viewers demand spectacle. They vote with their clicks, and we deliver." The walls seemed to close in as the digital tide of addiction surged around them. Alex pressed on. What happens when the appetite turns lethal? When the audience decides who dies and when? Rex's eyes narrowed. "Then you either play along or get out of the way." The conversation ended with a veiled threat, leaving Alex with no illusions. Exposing the system meant becoming its next target. Later, in a shadowed underground hideout, Mara's fingers flew across a holographic keyboard, her pastel hair catching the flicker of data streams from augmented reality glasses. The soft hum of machinery filled the space as she hacked into a livestream feed, searching for vulnerabilities in the platform's code. "I'm in," she whispered, eyes darting across cascading lines of code. "But they've fortified the algorithm. It's like trying to crack a fortress built on addiction and fear." Alex leaned over her shoulder, tension palpable. "We have to find a way." For Lila, outside, the city pulsed with unrelenting energy. Alex caught sight of Lila across the crowded plaza, her silhouette framed by towering billboards streaming violent content to millions. The public's addiction was a monstrous shadow, swallowing her fragile safety. The war for ratings was no longer just about entertainment. It was a battle for humanity itself, and Alex was caught in its deadly crossfire. As the chapter closed, the stakes climbed higher. The digital spectacle showed no mercy, and the true price of exposure was yet to be paid. The rain outside had taken on a soft, electric glow, a neon haze reflecting off wet asphalt, giving the city an almost liquid vibrancy. Alex Mercer sat hunched over his makeshift command center in the back room of a forgotten tech den. Screens flickered in front of him, each displaying lines of code, user analytics, and live feeds from the notorious true crime livestream platform that had become the epicenter of a digital spectacle gone horribly wrong. His fingers danced across the keyboard, eyes darting between encrypted data streams and firewall defenses. The hum of servers filled the cramped space, a relentless pulse that matched the rapid beat of his heart. Time was bleeding. Awela's execution was scheduled, her murder voted on by millions, set to be broadcast as the ultimate climax of public voyeurism. Alex had to act, and fast. Lila's presence was a quiet contrast in the room. She leaned against the far wall, arms crossed tightly, eyes flickering with a mix of fear and determination. "How much time do we have?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Less than 6 hours before the vote closes," Alex replied, not taking his eyes off the code cascading down the screens. "If I can break into their backend, I might be able to manipulate the numbers shift public opinion, create enough doubt to delay or cancel the event." She nodded, drawing a shaky breath. "And if you get caught?" Alex allowed himself a grim smile. "Then it's game over for both of us." The room pulsed with tension as Alex initiated his first breach attempt. Layers of encryption folded out like digital origami, each more complex than the last. This platform wasn't just a streaming service. It was a fortress built on greed, addiction, and a ruthless drive for profit. Behind the scenes, an intricate web of algorithms funneled viewer emotions, manipulated votes, and engineered outrage to keep the cameras rolling and the audience hooked. Suddenly, a flicker interrupted the sterile blue glow of the room. A holographic projection shimmered into existence beside Alex, a glitchy, neon blue avatar materializing with quick, precise movements. "Jocks," Alex muttered, recognizing the underground hacker who had agreed to lend his expertise in this desperate fight. "You're pushing hard." Jox's voice crackled through the speakers, electronic and urgent. "The platform's defenses are adaptive. Every move you make triggers countermeasures. They don't want you in." Alex leaned forward, fingers flying. "They don't want anyone interrupting their show, but we're going to try anyway." Jox's avatar pulsed with data streams cascading behind it. "I've got access to some internal chatter. The higher-ups have turned this into a corporate machina, twisted profit engine, exploiting every ounce of media, addiction, and public voyeurism. It's not just the votes. It's the psychological manipulation of the viewers. They've monetized death itself." A shiver went down Alex's spine. The cold mechanics of the system revealed something far more sinister than a mere spectacle. It was a carefully engineered ecosystem designed to feed on society's darkest impulses, all under the guise of entertainment. "Can we stop it?" Lila's voice broke through the tension. Alex looked up, meeting her eyes. "We have to, but first, we need to disrupt the vote." Minutes crawled by as Alex worked tirelessly, navigating the labyrinth of digital defenses. Screens displayed real-time vote tallies, viewer engagement stats, and algorithmic shifts, reacting to every change he made. For a brief moment, the numbers began to move in their favor, small victory in an ocean of corruption. But then, alarms flared. Red warnings flashed across the monitors. The system was fighting back, deploying automated trace programs and security bots to root out the intrusion. "They know," Alex muttered. "We've been detected." Jox's avatar flickered with urgency. You need to pull out or risk getting locked in. They'll come after you both now. Alex's mind raced. He could retreat and live to fight another day, or push forward and risk everything to save Lila. The choice was clear. Not yet, he said, voice steely. I'm going to expose what they're hiding. Suddenly, the room was flooded with data files, video footage, internal memos revealing the platform's true purpose. Corporate executives discussing strategies to increase viewer addiction, plans to engineer public outrage, and methods to ensure the continual scheduling of murders for maximum ratings and profit. Lila gasped, stepping closer. This isn't just a show. It's a crime syndicate masked as media. Alex nodded grimly. And we're the only ones who can stop it. With one final keystroke, Alex initiated a data dump, sending the damning evidence to public forums, whistleblower sites, and encrypted networks. The digital world buzzed as the truth began to seep through the cracks. But the victory was short-lived. The room's lights flickered violently as security forces mobilized, their digital and physical presence converging on Alex's location. Time's up, Jox warned. You need to get out now. Alex grabbed Lila's hand, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Outside, the city's neon glow beckoned a chaotic battlefield of media addiction, digital manipulation, and public voyeurism. Their fight was just beginning. As they slipped into the rain-drenched streets, Alex cast one last glance back at the flickering monitors. The system was vast, powerful, and hungry, but so were they. The stream was far from over. The neon haze of the city seeped through the cracked window of Lila's cramped apartment, casting a sickly pink glow against the peeling paint and stained furniture. Alex stood silently by the door, watching her with a mixture of concern and exhaustion. The past week had aged her beyond her years. Dark circles framed her sharp eyes, which darted constantly, as if expecting the shadows themselves to reach out and drag her into oblivion. They're everywhere, Lila whispered, voice trembling as she clutched her phone tighter. The screen alive with a torrent of notifications, threatening messages, cryptic warnings, and digital graffiti tagged with menacing symbols flooded her social media. I can't escape it, Alex. No matter where I go. It's like they're watching, waiting. Alex rubbed his temples, feeling the familiar burn of fatigue behind his eyes. Protecting Lila was becoming a Sisyphean task. Every step forward was met with two more threats, more eyes lurking in the digital and physical shadows. He had doubled their security protocols, hacked into surveillance feeds, and tried to trace the origin of the harassment. But the deeper he dug, the more labyrinthian the network became. The city itself seemed complicit in their torment. The omnipresent glow of holographic billboards flickered ominously, blaring fragmented true crime live streams that blurred the line between reality and entertainment. Crowds gathered around public screens, eyes glazed with morbid fascination, feeding the insatiable appetite for spectacle. It was a culture addicted to death, and Lila was the next star on their cruel stage. One night, as rain hammered against the grimy windows, Lila's phone erupted with a new wave of threats. She collapsed onto the threadbare couch, sobbing silently. Alex sank beside her, offering what little comfort he could. We'll get ahead of this, he promised, but even he doubted those words. Outside, the city pulsed with life, the distant wail of sirens, the hum of hovercars slicing through wet air, the chatter of crowds oblivious to the nightmare unfolding in a lonely apartment. Alex's mind raced. He knew the threats weren't random. They were orchestrated, part of a larger machinery designed to break her spirit and heighten viewer engagement. As Lila's paranoia deepened, her trust in Alex wavered. She recoiled from his protective gestures, fearing that any connection might hasten her demise. The invisible enemy was winning, feeding on fear and isolation. Determined, Alex ventured into the city's underbelly, chasing shadows and whispers. Neon lights reflected off rain-slicked pavement as he pursued fleeting figures and digital ghosts. His senses sharpened. Every sound, every movement could be a threat or a clue. The line between hunter and hunted blurred. Back at the apartment, a rare moment of calm allowed a fragile conversation. Over bitter coffee and stale cigarettes, they shared fears and hopes, vulnerabilities laid bare amidst the chaos. The city's relentless hum pressed against the walls, a constant reminder of the spectacle beyond their fragile sanctuary. But with every passing hour, the noose tightened. The digital world's addiction to death as entertainment was a monster that fed on fear and spectacle, and Lila was its latest prey. Alex faced a grim truth. To protect her, he might have to become the very thing he despised, a participant in the Killstream. The chapter closes with Alex standing watch by the window, eyes scanning the rain-drenched streets, heart pounding with resolve and dread. Somewhere out there, the invisible enemy waited, and so did the world, hungry and watching. The rain had started again, a cold, insistent drizzle that blurred the neon lights into streaks of violet and cyan across the wet pavement. Alex Mercer hunched beneath the flickering glow of a massive digital billboard, the city's heartbeat pulsing in electric rhythms above him. Around him, the streets were alive with the restless energy of a population hooked on the latest true crime frenzy. A live-stream murder set to air in less than an hour. Alex's breath fogged in the chill night air as he pulled his jacket tighter, eyes darting to the glowing countdown ticking down on his wrist device. The city had transformed into a theater of obsession, where every screen flickered with the promise of violence and spectacle. This was no ordinary crime wave. It was a meticulously orchestrated broadcast, a morbid carnival that fed the masses their daily dose of thrill and terror. Inside his cramped apartment, the clutter of monitors bathed the room in an otherworldly glow. Alex's fingers hovered over a keyboard, scanning live social feeds and encrypted chatter. Lila's face appeared on every feed, her sharp green eyes haunted by the knowledge of her impending fate. She was no longer just a client. She was a symbol of a society spiraling into darkness. As the livestream began, the chatter crescendoed into a frenzy. Thousands of viewers tuned in, their faces illuminated by screens. Their reactions a disturbing blend of excitement and numb fascination. Alex felt the weight of their collective gaze, a digital jury whose verdict was death itself. The scene on screen was brutal and unrelenting. Every sound, every movement was broadcast live. The victim's fear, the cold precision of her attackers, the crowd's virtual roar swelling with each passing second. Alex's stomach churned as he watched the public's voyeurism reach its zenith, the boundary between empathy and entertainment utterly obliterated. In the aftermath, silence settled like a shroud. Alex shut down his screens and stepped into the night. The city's fog wrapped around him, suffocating and thick. He could almost hear the distant echo of the digital applause, a sickening reminder that this was just another episode in an endless series of horrors. Yet beneath the despair, a fierce resolve ignited within him. The stakes had never been clearer. To fight this system was to confront not just corrupt corporations or shadowy puppeteers, but the very nature of a society addicted to watching death unfold like a twisted spectacle. Alex pulled his hood low, disappearing into the labyrinth of rain-soaked alleys. The public's eye was watching, but so was he, and he would do everything in his power to shatter the screen that held them captive. The war for truth and humanity was only beginning. Alex Mercer sat in the center of his cramped apartment, a fortress of flickering screens surrounding him like a digital cathedral of deceit. The neon glow from the city seeped through the single grimy window, casting fractured shadows over his tired face. Data streams scrolled endlessly across his monitors, a chaotic symphony of numbers, faces, and lines of code that refused to align with the narrative he'd been fed. For days, Alex had chased leads deeper into the labyrinth of the livestream platform's back end, peeling back layers of encryption and propaganda. Tonight, the pieces began to fall into a disturbing pattern. The votes that dictated life and death, the public spectacle that had entranced millions, were not the democratic outpouring of justice or curiosity as he had once believed. They were carefully choreographed illusions manipulated by a hidden elite who wielded control like puppeteers in a shadow play. His fingers trembled as he decrypted another file, the screen revealing a network of algorithms designed not to tally genuine votes, but to steer them, to manufacture consensus. Vote manipulation, he muttered under his breath, the words tasting bitter. The public's voice was a ghost, a facade maintained to keep the masses pacified and entertained while control remained firmly in the hands of those who profited from the chaos. The door to his apartment chimed softly. Alex glanced up to see Elliot Crane slip inside, the former livestream host turned whistleblower. Elliot's eyes were sharp, reflecting a mix of exhaustion and fierce resolve. "I've got more," he said, dropping a data chip onto the cluttered table. "They don't just rig votes, they erase histories, scrub victims from memory. They rewrite reality itself." Together, they plunged into the files, piecing together a mosaic of corruption that spread like rot through the media empire. Each revelation tightened the noose around their hopes. The more Alex uncovered, the clearer it became that the system was designed not just to entertain but to control, to fracture society into voyeurs and pawns. Meanwhile, Lila sat alone in a small apartment bathed in the eerie glow of multiple screens broadcasting the upcoming vote. Her reflection flickered across the glass as she watched the public's reactions, a frenzy of excitement, morbid curiosity, and blind trust in a process that was anything but fair. Fear gnawed at her, but so did defiance. She wasn't ready to be a casualty in this spectacle. Alex reached out to her through a secure channel, their voices low whispers amid the digital storm. "They're controlling the vote, Lila. It's not real. We have to fight this, expose it before it's too late." She swallowed hard, the weight of her fate pressing down. But how? They're everywhere. Watching, listening. The detective's jaw clenched. "We find their weakness. Every system has one." Days later, Alex found himself initiating a clandestine call with a media executive whose name was whispered in the darkest corners of the industry. The connection was encrypted, voices distorted, but the tension unmistakable. "You think you can stop the stream, the spectacle," the executive sneered. "The public needs this. We give them what they want and they give us control in return." Alex's voice was steady, cold. "Control built on lies will crumble, and I'm here to bring it down." As the call ended, a storm of questions raged in his mind. How far could he push before the system struck back? How many lives would be caught in the crossfire? And most haunting of all, could the truth ever truly set them free in a world addicted to illusion? The city outside pulsed with neon life, indifferent to the battles waged in the shadows. Alex knew the coming days would test every ounce of his resolve. The manipulated reality they lived in was fragile, but it was also deadly, and the countdown to Lila's fate ticked inexorably onward. He turned back to the screens, determination hardening his gaze. If the public's voice was a lie, then he would be the one to shatter the illusion no matter the cost. And as the first tendrils of dawn crept over the horizon, Alex Mercer prepared to dive deeper into the dark heart of the system, knowing that the next step could be his last. The air in the underground safe house was thick and stale, punctuated only by the quiet tapping of keys and the low hum of aging servers. Alex and Elliot leaned over an array of decrypted files, each one a fragment of the sinister puzzle. The glow of their screens painted their faces in harsh blue light, highlighting the grim determination etched into every line. "Look here," Elliot whispered, pointing to a digital map that traced the flow of manipulated votes across the city. "They're not just rigging individual polls. They're controlling entire districts, flipping public opinion like switches." Alex frowned, absorbing the magnitude of the deception. So the system's not just corrupt, it's engineered to keep the population divided and distracted. Elliot nodded slowly. "And every live-streamed murder, every public vote, it's all part of the show. A grand performance to keep the masses hooked." The weight of the revelation pressed down on them, but retreat was not an option. They had to expose the puppeteers pulling the strings. Back in the city, Lila's eyes flicked anxiously between the screens. The vote count for her fate swirled with unnatural fluctuations, spikes and drops that defied logic. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of terror and rage fueling her will to survive. Suddenly, a notification popped up, a message from Alex. "I'm close. Hold on." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, desperate to believe. Outside, the city's neon heartbeat throbbed on, a dazzling mask over the dark truth lurking beneath. The battle for reality had only just begun. Hours later, Alex confronted the media executive via an encrypted channel, the digital veil between them thick with tension. "You think you're the hero," the executive snarled. "But you're just another pawn in a game bigger than you understand." Alex's reply was calm but resolute. "I'm done playing. The public deserves to know the truth." A bitter laugh echoed through the speaker. "Truth in this world. The truth is what sells, detective. And right now, your client's death is the hottest ticket in town." Alex clenched his fists, the fight burning fiercer inside him. Not for long, the call ended, leaving a charged silence. Outside, the city's neon glow flickered like a heartbeat, fragile and uncertain. Alex knew the stakes had never been higher. The manipulated reality they all lived in was unraveling, and with it, the very foundations of their society. But unveiling the truth was only the beginning. The real fight was just ahead. As the chapter closes, Alex sits back in his chair, eyes fixed on the shifting patterns across his screens. The illusion of choice has been shattered, but the consequences of that revelation remain unknown. The city pulses with digital life, unaware that the very fabric of its reality is being torn apart from within. Alex Mercer clenches his jaw, ready to face whatever comes next. The war for truth has begun, and there is no turning back. Will he have the strength to see it through? The answer hangs in the electric air, waiting to be claimed. The low hum of neon lights seeped through the cracked vents of the underground safe house, casting fractured shadows across the walls cluttered with screens and tangled cables. Alex Mercer sat hunched over a battered table, his eyes fixed on a cascade of glowing code spilling from the hacked livestream feeds. Across from him, Juno Vale, the sharp-edged former host turned whistleblower, tapped rapidly on a holographic keyboard. her electric blue undercut catching the pale light. "This is bigger than we thought," Alex murmured, eyes narrowing. "They're not just scheduling murders, they're scripting them, choreographing every moment for maximum ratings." Juno nodded, her fingers pausing for a heartbeat. "I was part of this machine once. I saw how they twisted narratives, erased inconvenient truths. When I tried to speak out, they made sure I vanished from every feed, every memory." Her voice cracked, the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior revealing itself as rain tapped steadily against the grimy window. "They don't just kill people, they kill stories, erase lives from the public consciousness." Alex leaned forward, the weight of her words sinking deep. "We have to break the cycle. If the public ever learns what they're really watching..." A sudden crash echoed from the stairwell. The sharp blaring of alarms cut through the dimness, and the room flooded with red emergency lights. "They found us," Juno hissed, grabbing a data drive from the table. Without hesitation, Alex rose, motioning toward a camouflaged door behind a hanging tarp. This way, they slipped through a maze of cramped corridors, the pounding footsteps of security forces growing louder. The air was thick with tension, every breath a gamble between survival and capture. As they emerged onto a rooftop, the sprawling cityscape shimmered beneath a veil of neon haze and holographic ads. Distant drones hummed, their watchful eyes a reminder of the omnipresent surveillance. Juno exhaled deeply, clutching the data drive like a lifeline. "We need to expose them. Show the world the puppeteers behind the screen." Alex met her gaze, a fragile alliance forged in the crucible of danger and shared purpose. "Then we burned down their empire from the inside." As the rain began to fall, mingling with the electric glow of the city, the two figures stood side by side, flicker of resistance against the tide of digital manipulation and public voyeurism, threatening to consume them all. The fight for truth had only just begun. The clock was ticking, and every second brought them closer to the next scheduled murder. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that trust was a fragile commodity in this city, especially when dealing with someone like Juno. Yet, as they sifted through layers of encrypted data and manipulated livestream archives, it became clear that their alliance was the only chance to unravel the conspiracy. The media empire's reach extended deep, entwining corporate greed with public obsession, creating a spectacle where human lives were currency. Juno's insider knowledge revealed the extent of the psychological engineering used to addict. Viewers' algorithms designed not just to entertain, but to control. Each vote on a victim's fate was carefully staged, the illusion of choice masking a darker truth. The system's architects dictated outcomes to maintain their stranglehold on power. Despite her past, Juno's resolve was unshaken. "They turned me into a ghost," she said quietly, "but ghosts can haunt." Alex admired her courage, but knew the path ahead would be perilous. Every step closer to the truth risked exposure, and the media empire's enforcers were relentless. Their raid was a stark reminder. In a desperate bid, they uploaded fragments of incriminating footage anonymously to underground forums, hoping to ignite a spark of resistance. The response was mixed curiosity, denial, apathy, and it was a start. Each night, the weight of looming deadlines pressed harder. The public's appetite for spectacle showed no sign of waning, and Lila's execution date loomed like a shadow over their fragile plans. Yet amidst the chaos, moments of rare clarity emerged. On the rooftop, under the kaleidoscope of city lights and distant thunder, Alex and Juno allowed themselves a brief respite. They spoke not as hunter and hunted, but as allies bound by a shared cause. The city below seemed to pulse with both menace and possibility. We're not just fighting for one life, Alex said, eyes scanning the horizon. We're fighting for the soul of this place. Juno smiled faintly, her cybernetic implants catching the neon glint. Then, let's make them remember what humanity looks like. The battle lines were drawn, and in the shadows of a city addicted to death as entertainment, two unlikely warriors prepared to challenge the very heart of the Killstream. The night thickened, carrying whispered promises of rebellion and the unyielding hope that even in a world consumed by spectacle, truth could still break through the noise. The glow of neon seeped through the slatted blinds, casting fractured pink and cyan shadows across the cluttered room where Alex Mercer sat, hunched over a mess of holographic data streams and flickering screens. The stale air reeked faintly of burnt coffee and old electronics, a scent that had become the perfunctory backdrop to his night spent chasing ghosts in the digital haze. Lila stood nearby, her gaze fixed on the countdown clock projected against the grimy wall. 24 hours, 17 minutes, 39 seconds. Each tick was a hammer blow to the fragile hope clinging to Alex's gut. The scheduled murder loomed closer, a grotesque spectacle with a voting public eagerly awaiting their grim entertainment. "We don't have much time," Alex muttered, rubbing a hand over his face. "Every second that passes, more people tune in, more votes pour in. It's like feeding a fire with gasoline." Lila's voice was steady but low, laced with a brittle edge. "They think it's entertainment, but it's real. I'm real, and if we don't stop this, I'm dead." The room's silence was shattered by the sudden buzz of a secure comlink. Alex grabbed the device's slim, matte black handset with encrypted channels and answered. "Mara," the voice crackled, urgent and sharp. "I've found a way in. The algorithm that controls the vote, it's not just rigged, it's a labyrinth designed to keep the public addicted. They're manipulating every spike in viewer engagement to maximize spectacle. How soon can you get us access?" Alex asked, already standing, adrenaline sharpening his focus. "I'm working on it, but they've upped security since your last move. Expect drones and digital shadows. We're not just fighting a system, we're fighting a fortress." Alex glanced at Lila, whose eyes reflected a mixture of fear and determination. "We don't have a choice." The city outside throbbed with life, a pulsing heart of neon and noise where the lines between reality and screen blurred until indistinguishable. True crime live streams had become the apex of entertainment, a digital coliseum where human life was the ultimate commodity and public voyeurism reigned supreme. That night, Alex and Lila slipped through the tangled streets, the cold bite of rain mixing with the electric haze. The vaporwave glow of billboards and holographic ads flickered as they ducked into shadowed alleys. Suddenly, the whir of surveillance drones sliced through the air. Alex's heart pounded. "They're onto us," he whispered. They sprinted, footsteps echoing against slick pavement, weaving through the urban maze. Each corner brought new threats-marked vans, digital eyes tracking every move. The omnipresent hum of the media empire's surveillance net tightening. Reaching a nondescript door, pulsing faintly with blue light, they slipped inside the underground lair where Mara waited, surrounded by a forest of cables and screens. The air buzzed with raw energy and desperation. "We're running out of time," Mara said, fingers flying as streams of code scrolled past. "I'm in the back end now, but the system is fighting me every step. This algorithm isn't just controlling votes, it's controlling minds. The public's addiction isn't an accident, it's engineered." Alex leaned in, watching the data unfold. "If we can disrupt this, maybe we can shift the narrative. Stop the countdown." "Maybe," Mara replied, voice taut with uncertainty. But if they detect this breach, they'll come down hard. No more shadows, no more hiding. Back on the streets, the public's digital feed exploded with activity. Viewer counts skyrocketed, polarized comments clashed in a virtual storm, and the anticipation for Lila's fate grew into a menacing crescendo. The digital crowd was a living beast, hungry for the spectacle, blind to the humanity at its center. Alex's mind raced. The clock was relentless, the stakes impossibly high. Every move could tip the balance between salvation and slaughter. As the first faint light of dawn crept over the city, Alex exchanged a glance with Lila. The countdown was no longer just a number, it was a sentence. "We have to make them see," Alex said quietly. "Make them understand what this really is." Lila nodded, her voice a whisper carried on the cold morning air. "Before it's too late." And somewhere deep in the labyrinth of code and screens, the algorithm pulsed, waiting for its moment to claim its prize. The race against time had begun, and the city held its breath. Alex Mercer sat alone in the sparse confines of his apartment, the only illumination a flickering neon glow bleeding in from the rain-streaked city outside. The steady patter of rain against the window pane was a muted rhythm beneath the distant hum of hovercars and the ceaseless drone of digital advertisements that never ceased, even at this late hour. He leaned forward, elbows resting heavily on the cluttered desk, eyes scanning lines of text and fragmented video files on the holodisplay before him. These were relics from his past, a digital journal he had kept during the darkest stretch of his life, when media addiction had nearly consumed him. The words blurred as memories flooded in, unbidden and raw. The relentless craving to immerse himself in the endless stream of true crime content, the escape it offered from an otherwise bleak reality, had once been a chain wrapped tightly round his psyche. He remembered the nights spent glued to fragmented live streams, the whispered narrations painting scenes of violence and despair in vivid detail. The digital spectacle had been a drug, and he, a willing addict. A sharp knock at the door jolted him from his reverie. Without waiting for an invitation, the door slid open to reveal Dr. Evelyn Shaw, a psychologist specializing in media addiction, who had agreed to meet with him after Lila's case deepened into something far more sinister. "You're still burning the midnight oil," she remarked, stepping inside with her usual composed demeanor. Her steel-gray hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes held the calmness of someone used to navigating chaotic minds. Alex gestured toward the holodisplay. "I needed to revisit this, to understand what I'm really up against." Evelyn nodded, pulling up a chair beside him. "The system thrives on people like you and like Lila, those caught in the pull of spectacle, unable to break free from the endless cycle of consumption." Their conversation was a careful dissection of the psychological traps embedded in the media empire's design. Evelyn explained how the algorithms exploited dopamine loops, reinforcing compulsions that blurred lines between reality and digital fantasy. Alex listened intently, the parallels between his past and the current societal crisis becoming painfully clear. "It's not just about the murders," he said quietly. "It's about the addiction to watching them. The public's need to be part of the spectacle." Evelyn's eyes met his. "And that need is exactly what keeps the system alive." Later, walking through the neon-drenched streets, Alex felt the overwhelming assault of sensory stimuli. Holographic billboards, flashing vivid scenes of violence, snippets of live streams playing on every available screen, the cacophony of voices reacting, commenting, voting. The crowd around him was a sea of faces, illuminated by the glow of their devices, eyes glazed and unblinking. For a moment, Alex was pulled back to his own darkest moments, the crushing anxiety that had once gripped him in these very streets. He shook himself free, focusing on the mission ahead. The system was more than a media platform. It was a beast feeding on fear, addiction, and voyeurism. Back in his apartment, late into the night, Alex sat before a flickering screen, replaying archived footage of past livestream murders, ghostly echoes erased from public memory but not from his own. His face was bathed in the cold blue light, the weight of the system's cruelty pressing down on him. Yet beneath the haunted expression lay a growing determination. He would not let history repeat itself. His personal demons, once shackles, had become keys to unlock the system's darkest corners. With every painful memory confronted, Alex steeled himself to fight not just for Lila, but for a society trapped in a deadly addiction to spectacle. As the city outside pulsed with neon life, Alex Mercer prepared to plunge deeper into the shadows of the past, knowing that only by understanding the roots of media manipulation could he hope to sever its grip on the present. The night was far from over, and neither was the battle. The elevator descended with a mechanical groan, the soft hum of the city above fading into a low, pervasive drone. Alex Mercer's eyes flicked to the glowing interface embedded in his wrist, a countdown timer silently marking the seconds until the next security sweep. Below the neon-lit streets, buried deep within the labyrinthine core of the city, lay the heart of the livestream platform, a fortress of servers and secrets, where the pulse of the digital spectacle beat strongest. The air was thick with the sterile chill of conditioned machines, and the walls pulsed faintly with the rhythmic blink of countless LEDs. Alex's boots echoed against the concrete as he moved swiftly, guided by the encrypted access codes Mara Voss had smuggled him. Each swipe and key press was a calculated dance, bypassing firewalls and security protocols designed to guard a truth too dangerous for public knowledge. "You're really doing this?" Mara's voice crackled softly through the COM channel, an undercurrent of disbelief threading her tone. Alex didn't reply immediately. His focus was absolute, the stakes now clearer than ever. The scheduled murders, the public votes, the insatiable media addiction, all orchestrated from this very nexus. The whispers he'd chased through the dark web and shadow forums were no longer rumors, but cold, hard reality. A sudden flicker on the holodisplay caught his eye, a security drone's patrol pattern shifting unexpectedly. Time was running out. He ducked behind a server rack, the scent of ozone and heated circuits filling his nostrils. From this vantage, he accessed a terminal and initiated a deep probe into the platform's command hub. Lines of code cascaded down the screen, revealing layers of manipulation and control. Viewer engagement metrics were weaponized, votes rigged by shadow accounts and AI algorithms. The masterminds were no faceless entities, but individuals, Elias Crane and his inner circle, puppeteers who thrived on the public's darkest appetites. Suddenly, the room's lighting dimmed, and the holographic interface shimmered to life before him. The AI known as Juno materialized in vaporwave hues, a digital specter of shifting triangles and glitching waves. Unauthorized access detected, it intoned, voice modulated with unnerving calm. "I'm not here to fight," Alex said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "I want to understand." Juno's form twisted, colors bleeding into one another as it offered cryptic data streams and fragmented truths. Alex navigated the maze of misinformation, piecing together the extent of the corruption, how the system exploited media addiction, manipulated public voyeurism, and commodified death for profit and control. The silent alarm pulsed in his earpiece. Security was closing in. He grabbed a data shard containing the core files and bolted, heart pounding as he retraced his steps through the dim corridors. Outside, Mara waited in the shadows, her expression grim but resolute. "You found them," she said, voice low. "The real players." Alex nodded, the weight of revelation pressing down like the neon-lit cityscape above. This was no longer just a case. It was a war for the soul of society itself. As they disappeared into the night, the digital screens across the city flickered, broadcasting the next scheduled event, a public spectacle that would push the boundaries of obsession and cruelty. But now Alex held the key to unraveling the network's core. The question was whether the truth would be enough to shatter the system before it consumed them all. The countdown was far from over. The city was alive in a way that felt less like vibrancy and more like a fever dream. Neon lights splashed over rain-slicked streets, casting surreal hues of electric pink, cyan, and purple onto the faces of those who stared upward, their eyes reflecting the giant billboards that dominated the skyline. The countdown ticker was the centerpiece. 36 hours, then 24, then 12, and now just under 6 hours until Lila's scheduled murder streamed live to millions. Alex Mercer moved through the press of the crowd with a practiced ease born from years of navigating the city's underbelly. Yet tonight, every step felt heavier, the weight of inevitability pressing on him. Around him, phones buzzed, fingers tapped screens incessantly, and the collective anticipation was almost tangibly public frenzy feeding on itself, ravenous and unyielding. "It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck," murmured a voice beside him. Alex turned to find Jox, his hacker ally, eyes darting between multiple devices, hacking into the undercurrents of the livestream platform. "Except, this one's real," Alex replied grimly, glancing toward the towering holographic displays that broadcast Lila's face, calm, defiant, but undeniably marked by fear. "And there's no rewind button." Inside the sleek media control room high above the city, Mara Voss sat at the center of a command throne, her fingers gliding over holographic controls as charts and viewer statistics danced before her eyes. A cold smile crept across her lips with every spike in the ratings. She was the puppeteer of this grand spectacle, orchestrating the narrative with ruthless precision. For her, the public's addiction to true crime was a goldmine, and tonight's event was destined to shatter all previous records. "Increase the teaser frequency," Mara commanded, her voice smooth and unyielding. "Feed the anticipation. Let them hunger for more." Back in the cramped apartment that served as their makeshift war room, Alex and Jox worked feverishly. The walls were lined with tangled cables, blinking servers, and flickering screens. Jox's fingers flew across the keyboard, attempting to breach the live stream's back end. "If we can insert a disruption, maybe a countdown glitch or a flash of corrupted datawit could break the flow. Confuse the viewers long enough to buy us time," Jox explained, eyes not leaving the code scrolling past. "Or it could backfire," Alex countered. "Mara's network is built to adapt. They'll come down on us hard. We don't have a choice. If we don't try, Lila's death becomes just another performance," Jox said, determination sharpening his words. Meanwhile, on a rooftop overlooking the sprawling cityscape, Lila stood alone. The cold air crystallized her breath into small clouds as she gazed out over the pulsing lights and the sea of people gathering below. Despite the terror clawing at her chest, there was a fire in her eyes, a quiet determination that refused to be snuffed out. "Alex," she whispered into her comm link, voice steady despite the storm of emotions. "Whatever happens, don't let this be the end." Alex's response was swallowed by the static, but his resolve was firm. The public spectacle was nearly unstoppable, a monstrous entity fueled by voyeurism and digital addiction. Yet, somewhere beneath the neon haze and the cacophony of the city, a rebellion flickered to life. Hours later, as the livestream began, the world held its breath. The screen exploded with color and sound, a cacophony of flashing cameras, screaming fans, and the cold, clinical voice of the host announcing the event. Alex and Jox's disruption attempt sent a ripple through the feed, a brief moment of chaos that sent viewers reeling and Mara's operatives scrambling. But the backlash was immediate and brutal. The platform's AI countermeasures locked down, isolating the glitch, and Mara's forces surged to hunt down the source. Alex's phone buzzed incessantly with warnings and intercepted threats. The game had escalated beyond control. As the crowd below chanted and the digital world watched with bated breath, Alex knew the battle was far from over. The spectacle was only just beginning, and the stakes were higher than ever. The neon lights flickered in the rain, shadows shifting in the corners of the city. Somewhere, in the swirl of pixels and screams, the line between justice and entertainment blurred irrevocably, and Alex Mercer was determined to tear it down no matter the cost. The air in Alex Mercer's apartment was thick with the hum of neon, the city's glow bleeding through the slatted blinds in fractured shards of electric pink and blue. He sat slumped in the battered recliner, his eyes fixed on the holoscreen before him. The image flickered, a looping clip from last night's livestreamer murder broadcast to millions. The kind that had become a grotesque staple of society's morbid diet. The victim's face was frozen mid-scream, a haunting tableau of terror captured in unforgiving digital clarity. The crowd's reactions scrolled endlessly beneath the video gleeful emojis. Cold calculations of odds, and the casual cruelty of spectators turned voyeurs. Alex's jaw clenched as the weight of the spectacle pressed down on him. This was no longer just entertainment. It was a sickness, a collective wound festering beneath the skin of the city. He reached out and paused the stream, the image freezing on the victim's wide ISA mirror reflecting the city's soul. He rubbed his temples, a slow burn of guilt igniting behind his eyes. How many times had he watched these streams, searched for clues, followed leads, only to become part of the machinery that kept the audience hooked? Complicity was a bitter pill, one he swallowed daily. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. The message was from Juno. Meet me at the usual spot. We need to talk. The underground bar was a stark contrast to the polished neon towers outside, dim, cluttered, and smelling faintly of burnt coffee and stale sweat. It was a refuge for those who skirted the edges of the city's digital obsession. Alex found Juno seated at a corner table, her lavender hair catching the low light as she nervously tapped her fingers against a chipped mug. "You know why I called," she said, voice low and urgent. "The streams aren't just entertainment, they're addiction engineered at every level. The algorithms, the crowds, the vote rigging, it's all designed to keep people hooked." Alex nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling in. "But people choose to watch. They want this." Juno's eyes hardened. "They think they do, but it's like a drug. The more you watch, the less you feel outside the screen. Real empathy fades. It becomes a game, a spectator sport where the victims lose their humanity." Around them, patrons refreshed their devices compulsively, eyes glazed, lips parted slightly in a trance. Alex felt a pang of despair. The city was drowning in apathy wrapped in voyeuristic pleasure, and he was caught in the undertow. Later that night, Lila appeared at his door, her usual confident demeanor cracked by an undercurrent of fear. "They're watching Alex," she whispered, voice barely audible over the distant hum of hovercars. "Not just the Publica system itself. Every move I make, every word I say is scrutinized, dissected, turned into content. I'm not a person anymore. I'm a product, a show." Her hands trembled as she gripped the doorframe, the fluorescent street lamp casting jittery shadows on her face. Alex reached out, steadying her. "We'll find a way out, but you have to trust me." She nodded, but the fear lingered, a living thing between them. That night, as the city pulsed with restless energy, Alex found himself staring into the cracked mirror above his sink. The fractures sliced through his reflection like the fractured media landscape he was fighting against. His eyes, once sharp, now weary, searched for answers in the broken shards. Was he the hunter or the hunted? The savior or the enabler? The question gnawed at him, a relentless echo in the hollow spaces of his mind. The true crime livestream culture was more than an addiction. It was a mirror held up to society's darkest impulses. And now, caught in the web of public voyeurism and digital manipulation, Alex knew that exposing the truth would demand more than just courage. It would require him to confront the very parts of himself he had long avoided. As dawn crept over the horizon, painting the city in pale hues, Alex made a silent vow. The spectacle would end, one way or another. But the path ahead was shrouded in shadows, and the line between justice and obsession blurred with every step he took. The screen flickered back to life with a new notification. The countdown to Lila's scheduled murder was ticking down faster than ever, and the world was watching. Alex swallowed hard, the weight of the city pressing down on him. There was no turning back now. The fight for truth and for Lila's life had only just begun. He turned away from the mirror, steeling himself for the war behind closed screens. Alex Mercer sat hunched over the flickering holographic interface, his fingers dancing across the translucent keyboard with practiced precision. The cramped apartment was bathed in a wash of neon purple and electric blue, the city's glow seeping through the cracked blinds. Around him, streams of code cascaded like digital waterfalls, the labyrinthine algorithms of the livestream platform laid bare by his hacker ally, Jox. The air was thick with the hum of machines and the faint scent of burnt coffee. "We're close," Jox muttered, his voice barely above a whisper, eyes scanning the lines of code racing across the screen. "If I can just inject this rewrite here, we'll start pushing the violent content down the feed." Alex nodded, though his gut twisted with the weight of uncertainty. The platform's algorithm was a beast fed by millions of viewers. Darkest impulses, a living entity shaped by collective desire and addiction. Breaking it meant more than a technical challenge. It meant challenging the very appetite that fueled their world. "Ready?" Alex asked. Jox's fingers paused, hovering. "Once we do this, there's no turning back. The system will adapt." With a final keystroke, the code integrated into the platform's core. Instantly, the city's digital landscape shifted. Screens across neon-drenched streets, cramped apartments, and sprawling megastructures flickered as the algorithm recalibrated. The gruesome live streams, the scheduled murders that had captivated millions, began to fade from trending lists. Across the city, reactions were immediate and electric. Chat rooms exploded with confusion and anger. "What's happening?" "Censorship. I want my Killstream." Messages flooded social feeds, hashtags spiked, and offline protests erupted with cries for freedom of choice. Lila watched from her shadowed corner, the glow of her tablet reflecting in her wide eyes. For a moment, hope blossomed, a fragile, hesitant thing. The digital chains that had bound her fate seemed to loosen, if only slightly. But the relief was short-lived. The platform's adaptive AI responded with a ruthless efficiency, pivoting to amplify alternate violent content, darker and more twisted. The public's hunger only deepened, fracturing into chaotic waves of outrage and despair. Alex stared out from a rooftop, the city sprawling beneath him like a circuit board pulsing with neon light. The digital storm he'd unleashed was unpredictable, a wild beast clawing its way free. He felt the weight of his gamble. Had he merely stirred the hornet's nest, or had he struck a blow for change? The night stretched on, filled with the crackle of digital warfare and the echoes of a society caught in the throes of its own addiction. In the heart of the storm, Alex knew the fight was far from over. But, for the first time, the possibility of breaking free shimmered on the horizon. Flicker of light in the endless neon night. "We've got to keep pushing," Jock said, eyes bloodshot from hours at the console. "This backlash, it's not just about the streams, it's about control. If the public senses any loss of power, they lash out." Alex rubbed his temples. "It's a powder keg. One wrong move and it all blows up." "Then we make sure it's a controlled explosion," Jox replied. "We need to steer the chaos, not just survive it." The room pulsed with urgency. The digital clock ticking down toward the next scheduled event, the one everyone feared the most. Alex glanced at Lila, her face pale but determined. "We're not just fighting an algorithm," Alex said quietly. "We're fighting a culture." Lila nodded, her voice steady despite the tremors beneath. "Then let's change the rules of the game." Outside, the city's heartbeat quickened, neon lights flickering in sync with the restless digital tide. Somewhere deep in the network, the algorithm churned, forever adapting, forever hungry. And in the shadows, Alex prepared to face whatever came next. The rain had begun its steady descent, well before Alex and Lila slipped into the labyrinth of the city's back alleys. Neon lights fractured in the puddles beneath their feet, casting fragmented shards of electric pink and blue that danced with every hurried step. The distant wail of sirens mingled with the omnipresent hum of digital advertisements towering above the skyline, a cruel reminder of the ever-watchful eyes that followed their every move. Alex's breath came in shallow bursts, each exhale a mist swirling into the cold night air as he kept pace beside Lila, whose eyes darted anxiously toward every shadow. "We don't have much time," Alex murmured, voice low but steady, his hand brushing an old, worn leather jacket close around his frame as they navigated toward their rendezvous point. "The system's algorithms are still recalculating. That vote delay was a narrow window, but it's closing fast." Lila's grip tightened briefly on his arm, a silent anchor amid the storm of her apprehension. "Do you really think this will work? That I can disappear from their feeds?" Alex glanced at her, the neon glow highlighting the tense set of her jaw. "It's the best shot we've got. But we're not just fighting for you anymore. This is bigger than one person." They reached the nondescript door of a cramped safe house tucked between two towering alley billboards. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of recycled oxygen and faint traces of burnt circuitry. Mira sat hunched over a battered terminal, her platinum hair catching the flicker of holographic data streams that cascaded around her like digital waterfalls. Her fingers moved with practiced grace over the glowing keys, decrypting and rerouting signals in a desperate dance against the omnipresent surveillance network. "Status?" Alex asked, dropping his soaked jacket on a chair. Myra didn't look up. "The platform's vote algorithms have been paused temporarily. We've triggered a feedback loop in their data centers." Lila's profile is effectively hidden from the scheduled execution list. You've bought her some time, but it's fragile. Lila exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, a flicker of hope breaking through the haze of fear. So, I'm safe. For now. Mira's eyes finally met hers, sharp with caution. Safe is a relative term. The system will adapt. It always does. We need to keep moving. The room's fragile calm shattered abruptly as Lila's wrist device blared a shrill alarm. A cascade of red warnings flooded the small screen. The live stream platform had recalibrated. The vote was back online, and the hunt had resumed with renewed vigor. Alex snatched the device, swiping through the incoming data. They've reinstated the kill order and boosted the surveillance grid. Every camera, every drone, every sensor in the city is locked onto her. Panic flickered in Lila's eyes. They won't stop until what? Alex interrupted gently, forcing calm into his voice. Until they've turned this city into their stage and you into a spectacle. But we're not going down without a fight. The three of them hurriedly packed their gear, the stark fluorescent lighting casting long shadows on the peeling walls. Outside, the storm intensified, rain lashing the narrow streets, masking their movements but amplifying the distant echoes of the city's restless pulse. On the rooftop of a nearby building, Alex paused, scanning the sprawling urban landscape. The kaleidoscope of digital billboards and neon signs flickered in the rain, mirroring the chaos below. The media empire's influence was woven into every pixel, every byte of the city's digital fabric. He clenched his fists, the weight of the battle pressing down on him. This isn't just about saving Lila. It's about breaking the hold of a system that feeds on our obsession with death and spectacle. The night stretched endless before him, a battleground of shadows and light where every move was watched. Every heartbeat could be broadcast live. As the storm raged on, so did their fight, fragile, dangerous, but fueled by a relentless hope that even the darkest system could be challenged. Alex turned back towards the stairwell, determination hardening his features. We keep moving, we find a way, we expose them. Behind him, the city throbbed with the pulse of 1 million viewers, hungry for the next show. But Alex knew the truth. The real story was just beginning. The glow of holographic screens cast eerie shadows across Alex Mercer's cramped apartment, the only sanctuary he had left in this sprawling neon metropolis. Each screen flickered with fragments of data, some barely legible, others stark and horrifying. He had been digging through encrypted archives for hours, hacking through firewalls built to bury the past, to erase the memories that might ignite a revolution. Tonight, he was chasing ghosts, digital ghosts. His fingers danced over the virtual keyboard, eyes narrowing as a fragmented livestream flickered to life. The scene was chaotic, a violent tableau of a murder broadcasted live. Yet the metadata showed it had been scrubbed clean from every official archive. No trace existed outside this hidden cache. The victim's face was blurred, the timestamp distorted. Yet, Alex knew what this meant. Someone had tried to erase her existence, not just from memory, but from history itself. He leaned back, heart pounding. This wasn't just about Lila anymore. It was a systematic annihilation of truth, a rewriting of reality curated by the unseen hands controlling the media empire. The scheduled murders were but a symptom of a deeper sickness, one that infected the collective consciousness of the city and beyond. A soft chime broke his reverie, a secure message from Ria, the whistleblower who had risked everything to expose cracks in the system. She invited him to meet at an underground cafe, a refuge where whispers of rebellion still circulated. The cafe was tucked beneath the city's neon haze, lit by flickering violet signs and the muted glow of augmented reality advertisements. The air smelled of damp concrete and burnt coffee, a stark contrast to the sterile digital world outside. Ria sat in the shadowed corner, her violet hair a beacon against the gloom. Her voice was low, urgent. "They don't just control the live streams, Alex," she said, sliding a dataship across the table. "They erase the past. Every victim, every broadcast that threatens their narrative disappears. The public forgets, and the system stays intact." Alex inserted the chip into his portable reader. The holographic projection revealed a timeline of erased events, each one a ghostly void in the public record. "Digital ghosts," he muttered. "People who never existed," Ria nodded. "And that's the worst part. The system doesn't just manipulate the present, it controls the collective memory. If you can rewrite history, you control reality." Determined to understand the full scope, Alex returned to his apartment to explore further. Slipping on his augmented reality headset, he immersed himself in a simulation of past live streams that had been distorted and fragmented by censorship. Scenes flashed before him, faces frozen in terror, screams muffled by digital static, moments of violence replayed in broken loops. They were not just recordings, they were echoes of lives stolen by a system designed to entertain at any cost. The weight of it pressed on him, a haunting sorrow for the forgotten, and a fierce urgency to act. How many more had vanished? How many stories had been rewritten to serve a voyeuristic public addicted to spectacle? Days blurred as Alex pieced together the fragments. Each revelation brought new dangers, shadows lurking in the corners of the city and the network. Yet, amidst the darkness, the flicker of resistance grew. He and Lila were no longer just prey. They were becoming the spark of a fight for truth. On the rooftop of a crumbling skyscraper, Alex stared out over the cityscape bathed in vaporwave, hues neon pinks and electric blues painting the night sky. The digital ghosts of the past whispered in the hum of servers and the flicker of screens. In this world, reality was malleable, history a battlefield. But Alex's resolve was unyielding. The system could erase memories, manipulate votes, and orchestrate murders live for ratings, but it could not extinguish the human spirit forever. He whispered to the night, "We'll make them remember." The damp chill of the subway tunnel pressed against Alex Mercer's skin as he followed Lila deeper into the labyrinth beneath the neon-lit city. Their footsteps echoed softly against cracked concrete walls, the faint drip of water a metronome to their hurried pace. Above, the city roared with digital life advertisements flashing, crowds murmuring, and the omnipresent pulse of live streams broadcasting death and despair for the masses' insatiable appetite. But down here, in the shadowed veins of the metropolis, a different kind of battle was being waged. Lila's hooded jacket hung low, obscuring her sharp eyes which darted nervously around the tunnel. Alex's senses were on edge, not just from the cold, but from the knowledge that their very survival hinged on the fragile trust they were about to forge. The scheduled murder looming over Lila's head had forced them into this underworld, seeking allies beyond the prying eyes of the media empire. A faint glow appeared ahead, a flickering neon sign barely visible through the grime sanctuary. It was the code name for the Resistance's safe house, a hidden refuge for those who dared to oppose the spectacle of death broadcast to the masses. As they approached, a figure stepped from the shadows. Mara, the Resistance leader. Her presence was commanding. Jet black hair cropped close, eyes sharp and calculating, and tattoos that told stories of battles fought in silence. "You're late," Mara said, her voice low but edged with urgency. "The media empire's reach grows every day. They already have eyes everywhere. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words. We don't have time. Lila's execution is scheduled. We need to move fast. Inside the safe house, monitors lined the walls, casting a cold blue light over a room filled with tense faces. Digital maps pulsed with data streams, each line and node representing a piece of the sprawling network controlled by the media conglomerate. Jox, the Resistance's tech specialist, sat at the center, his cybernetic implants glowing faintly as his fingers danced over a holographic keyboard. We've intercepted some new encrypted feeds, Jox said without looking up. They're ramping up surveillance on Lila's movements. If we don't act quickly, she's a sitting target. Mara stepped forward, her eyes meeting Alex's. This isn't just about saving one life anymore. It's about disrupting the system that thrives on our addiction to watching death. We're trying to tear down a media empire built on voyeurism and manipulation. Alex looked around the room, seeing the faces of those who had risked everything for this cause. Paranoia lingered in the air, thick as the smoke curling from a half-forgotten cigarette. Yet beneath the tension was a spark of something rarer, hope. Over the following days, Alex and Lila integrated into the Resistance's operations. Jox's hacking skills revealed the intricate web of digital puppeteers controlling the scheduled murders, and Mara coordinated clandestine strikes aimed at severing the media empire's grip on the city. But each victory was shadowed by growing danger. Their movements tracked, their communications infiltrated. One night, far above the city's glowing skyline, Alex and Lila found a rare moment of quiet on a rooftop overlooking the sprawling metropolis. The neon lights blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors, advertising slogans blending with the distant hum of drones and digital chatter. "Do you really think this will work?" Lila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex glanced at her, the weight of their shared burden clear in his eyes. "It has to. We can't let them win. Not like this." The silence stretched between them, a fragile thread of hope tangled with fear. Below, the city thrummed with the restless energy of a society addicted to spectacle, oblivious to the war waging in the shadows. As dawn approached, the underground resistance prepared for their next mover gambit that could either shatter the media empire's control or seal their fates forever. In this world where every click and vote could mean life or death, Alex knew the stakes had never been higher. And as the first light crept across the horizon, he vowed that no matter the cost, they would fight the darkness with every ounce of their resolve. The underground was no longer just a refuge, it was the last flicker of a rebellion against a digital tyranny that consumed humanity's soul. But would it be enough? The answer lay in the shadows, where hope and danger danced on the edge of a razor's blade. The underground bunker was thick with anticipation, the stale air heavy with the scent of damp concrete and electronic hum, around the holographic projection that pulsed softly in the center of the room. The resistance members gathered, their faces a mixture of determination and exhaustion. Alex Mercer stood slightly apart, eyes scanning the tense assembly. The digital map flickered, highlighting various nodes and streaming data points that represented the media empire's sprawling control networks. Jox's voice cut sharply through the quiet. "We can't keep playing defense. It's time to strike at the core, disrupt the infrastructure, sever the feeds. That's how we break their grip." His cybernetic eye glowed faintly as he pointed at a cluster of streaming servers pulsing red. Myra stepped forward, her shaved head catching the blue light from the projection. "You're reckless, Jox. Sabotage will only escalate the surveillance and tighten their control. We need to win hearts and minds, expose the corruption through truth, not violence." Her gaze locked with his, fierce and unyielding. A murmur rippled through the group. The ideological divide was widening, threatening to splinter their fragile unity. Alex felt the weight of the moment press down on him. "Enough," he said, his voice steady but firm. "This infighting plays right into their hands. We need a plan that balances both strike smart and expose the system. We can't afford fractures now." Jox's jaw clenched, but he nodded slowly. Myra's eyes softened, though the tension lingered like static in the air. Cade, standing near the back, crossed his arms, his cybernetic arm worry softly. Alex caught his skeptical glance. Later, as the meeting dispersed, Alex stepped outside. The neon rain fell in slow streaks, casting shimmering reflections on the cracked pavement. The city's distant drone hum was a constant reminder of the ever-watchful eyes above. Alone for a moment, Alex let the weight of uncertainty settle over him. The resistance was fractured, the execution date looming like a guillotine over Lila's fate. Inside the bunker again, in a shadowed corridor, Alex confronted Cade. "You don't trust the plan," he said quietly. Cade's gaze was cold. "Trust is earned, Mercer. Right now, I'm not sure we're on the right side of this fight." The metallic clang of a distant pipe echoed between them, underscoring the fragility of their alliance. Alex exhaled slowly. "We don't have the luxury of doubt, at least, not yet. But I hear you." Back in the main chamber, Lila sat alone, her violet hair glowing faintly under the cold light of the monitors. The digital countdown to her scheduled execution flickered relentlessly on the screens around her, fracturing her reflection into shards of light and shadow. Her eyes, wide with fear and defiance, traced the numbers as they edged closer to zero. The fractured alliances, the ideological clashes, the looming threat, it all pressed down on Alex's shoulders like a storm about to break. In this crucible of distrust and danger, every decision was a line drawn in the sand, and the question remained, could they hold together long enough to defy the media empire's deadly spectacle? As the rain continued its relentless fall outside, Alex knew the battle for Lila's life and for the soul of their city was far from over. The lines had been drawn, the stakes set, and the hourglass was running out. The night deepened, and with it, the fragile hope of resistance flickered precariously against the overwhelming tide of manipulation and control. But in the shadows of that underground bunker, amidst the fractured loyalties and simmering tensions, the fight for truth and freedom was just beginning. Alex's gaze hardened. Tomorrow, the lines in the sand would either hold or be washed away forever. "We're not done yet," he whispered to himself, as the screens around him pulsed with the silent countdown to oblivion. The room was swallowed in a flickering cascade of holographic screens, each one displaying the same horrific scene, a leaked live stream of a murder, raw and unfiltered, ripping through the curated facades of the city's digital entertainment. Alex Mercer sat rigid in his cramped apartment, the neon glow from the holoscreens casting long, spectral shadows across the peeling walls. His eyes, dark and tired, were locked on the chaos unfolding in front of him, a brutal reminder that the game was far from over. The footage played without mercy, every detail, every sound, every agonized breath of the victim broadcast to the masses in real time. The city's addiction to true crime spectacle shattered any illusion of safety for Lila and himself. The leak had reignited the public frenzy, and with it, the media empire's grip tightened like a vice. Lila sat across from Alex, her hands trembling as she tried to steady her breath. "They're watching," she whispered, voice barely audible over the hum of the screens. "Everyone is." Alex didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing, calculating, running through every possible scenario. "This changes everything," he said finally. "They're losing control. But that also means they'll double down. We need to act now." The room was cold, the air thick with tension. The glow of the neon signs outside seeped through the cracked window, painting Lila's face in shades of violet and blue. She looked at Alex, a flicker of hope battling the fear in her eyes. "What do you have in mind?" she asked. Before Alex could respond, the sharp beep of an incoming message interrupted the moment. Jox's encrypted call cracked through the static, his voice low and urgent. "They're mobilizing security forces." The leaks made waves across the net. "We don't have much time." Alex nodded, already moving toward his cluttered workstation. "Then we take the fight to them. We hijack the next scheduled broadcast. Expose everything. The manipulation, the votes, the lies." Jox's cybernetic eye flickered as he processed the plan. "It's risky. They'll come for us hard. But if anyone can pull it off, it's you." The next hours blurred into a fevered rush of preparation. Alex and Lila slipped into the underbelly of the city, moving like shadows through neon-lit alleyways and forgotten tunnels. The underground hideout where Jox waited was a stark contrast to the dazzling chaos above a cold, steel sanctuary filled with the soft hum of encrypted servers and flickering monitors. Together, they sifted through streams of corrupted data, decrypting layers of the media empire's control mechanisms. Each revelation was a dagger, each truth a spark threatening to ignite the tinderbox of public outrage. Lila's paranoia was palpable, her eyes darting to every shadow, every unexpected sound. "They're everywhere," she murmured. "I don't know who to trust anymore." Alex placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "We have to trust each other. That's all we have." Outside, the city was unraveling. Digital protests surged across hollow billboards, the public's reaction to the leaked footage a volatile mix of fear, fury, and denial. Riot sirens wailed in the distance, the streets a maelstrom of clashing ideologies and desperate cries for change. Alex's plan was audacious: seize control of a broadcast van stationed at the media hub, hijack the scheduled livestream, and flood it with the unfiltered truth. The risk was enormous, but the alternative was unthinkable. Another orchestrated death broadcast, another spectacle feeding the voracious appetite of a corrupted system. As he climbed into the cramped van, the cold metal beneath him felt like the prelude to war. Sweat slicked his brow despite the chill. The hum of the equipment was a steady pulse, syncing with the rapid beat of his heart. Every second counted. With a deep breath, Alex initiated the override sequence. The screens inside the van flickered, then steadied, streaming live to millions. His voice, raw and unpolished, cut through the usual digital noise. "This ends now," he declared. "You've been fed lies, manipulated votes, and orchestrated deaths for entertainment and profit. It's time to see the truth." Behind him, the city held its breath. Outside, the digital world exploded in cries of shock, disbelief, and awakening. But with every moment of exposure, the shadows closed in tighter. The security forces of the media empire were already moving, their footsteps echoing like death knells. Alex glanced at the holofeed, eyes burning with resolve. For Lila, for everyone they tried to silence, we fight back. The broadcast spiraled into chaos. Viewer numbers surged, messages flooded in, and the carefully constructed illusion of control began to crumble. Yet, the danger was real and immediate. The hunt had begun in earnest. As the van hurtled through the dark streets, Alex's mind raced with one question. Could this rebroadcast truly awaken the public before it was too late? Or was it just another step toward the abyss? The story was far from over. But for the first time in a long while, there was a flicker of hope in the neon haze. The screen cut to black. The glow of countless screens painted Alex Mercer's face in shifting shades of electric blue and neon pink. His cramped apartment, once a refuge, now felt like a prison within a labyrinth of data. Holographic feeds flickered incessantly, each one broadcasting fragmented pieces of his life clips, edited, twisted, and repurposed to paint a damning portrait of a man he barely recognized. He leaned forward, eyes narrowing as the latest manipulated video played. Alex, apparently caught in a heated argument with Lila, his voice distorted to imply threats he never uttered. "They're turning me into the villain," he muttered, fingers trembling as he swiped through layers of code, searching for the origin of the digital poison. This was more than just misinformation. It was a meticulously crafted assault on his identity, designed to isolate him from allies and the public alike. Outside, the city pulsed with neon life, shadows dancing across rain-slick streets as holographic advertisements flickered and whispered promises. But for Alex, the city had turned hostile. Every corner watched, every movement tracked. The system, an omnipresent web of surveillance and manipulation, was tightening its noose. A sudden buzz jerked Alex from his thoughts. A secure, encrypted message blinked into existence, Lila's signature. He opened it cautiously. "Meet me now." Alley behind the old neon market. Within minutes, Alex was navigating the labyrinth of backstreets, the rain soaking through his jacket, the smell of ozone thick in the damp air. The neon signs cast fractured light onto puddles, each reflection distorted like their reality. Lila emerged from the shadows, her cybernetic eye flickering with data streams, scanning the environment as if expecting ambush. "They're rewriting everything," she whispered, voice tense. "Every move we make, they twist it. They want me silenced, and you discredited." Alex nodded grimly. "I'm starting to think the system knows us better than we know ourselves. It's not just watching, it's controlling the narrative we live in." She looked at him, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion. "We're trapped in a mirror maze, Alex. Every reflection is a lie." Their conversation was cut short by the buzz of distant sirens and the sudden crackle of a digital alert in Alex's earpiece. Mara's voice, urgent and breathless, broke through the static. "I'm in. The server's vulnerable, but not for long. They're on to me." Back in a hidden safe house, Mara's fingers flew over a translucent keyboard, hacking into the livestream platform's fortified core. Alarms blared as security protocols activated, but Mara's determination was relentless. "We have to expose the manipulation at the source," she urged. As the digital battle raged, Alex's mind spiraled into darker places. He found himself staring into a cracked mirror, his image fractured and multiplied infinitely. It was a haunting symbol of his fractured identity, each shard reflecting a different version of himself, none fully real. The lines between truth and fabrication blurred until they were indistinguishable. He felt the weight of the system's reach crushing down on him and Lila, their fates precariously balanced on the edge of a digital abyss. "We can't let them win," Alex whispered to his reflection, voice firm despite the dread. "But first, we have to find out who's pulling the strings." Outside, the city's neon heartbeat continued, oblivious to the silent war waging beneath its vibrant surface, where every pixel could be a weapon and every truth a lie waiting to be rewritten. As the chapter closed, a new message appeared on Alex's screen, an ominous countdown, not to Lila's scheduled murder, but to his own disappearance from the digital world. Time was running out. The courtroom was a theater of neon and shadows, a grim stage set for the spectacle that the city craved. Lila stood at the center, shackled and alone, her pale face stark against the harsh glow of the overhead lights. The air was thick with synthetic anticipation, the hum of cameras and drones capturing every angle of her forced trial. Judge Harrow presided with an icy composure, his voice amplified and modulated to resonate across millions of screens. "Lila, you stand accused of crimes against the collective peace," Harrow intoned, his words a rehearsed litany twisted to fit the narrative the media empire demanded. The digital audience responded instantly, thousands of glowing avatars and chat bubbles erupting in condemnation or support, a cacophony of judgment echoing in the virtual ether. Alex Mercer watched from a cramped safe house, the glow of multiple screens reflecting in his weary eyes. His fingers danced over the keyboard, hacking into the livestream feed with a mix of desperation and precision. Every second counted. The trial was more than a public execution, it was a manipulation of truth, a digital crucible where the innocent could be burned at the altar of entertainment. "We need to break the narrative," Alex muttered, his voice low. "Show them the lies." Outside, Lila's voice was silenced, her protests edited out or drowned beneath the judge's proclamations. The stream moderator's synthetic tone narrated the trial with unsettling cheerfulness, spinning falsehoods into viral headlines before they could be questioned. The chat exploded a digital storm of polarized fury. Some viewers fed the frenzy with venomous accusations. Others rallied desperately behind Lila, their hopes flickering like fragile flames in a tempest. Alex's screen flickered as the system fought back, algorithms and firewalls warring to maintain the fabricated storyline. Sweat beaded on his brow as he pushed deeper, bypassing security layers, each keystroke a gamble. Suddenly, the broadcast cut to black, an abrupt silence that blanketed the city's screens. The crowd gasped in unison, the chat frozen in stunned disbelief. Then, from the void, Alex's message burst forth, raw and unfiltered. Footage of manipulated evidence, hacked communications, and hidden puppeteers flooded the screens. The truth spilled into the public consciousness, a tidal wave crashing against the carefully constructed facade. For a moment, hope flickered, a fleeting chance to reclaim reality from the clutches of spectacle. But the blackout was only the beginning. The media empire would not relinquish control without a fight. And as the digital courtroom plunged into chaos, Alex knew the battle for Lila's life, fanned the soul of the city, was far from over. The trial was meant to break her. Instead, it might just ignite a revolution. "They want us to watch," Alex whispered, eyes locked on the glitching stream. "But we need to stop watching. We need to start fighting." And as the first cracks appeared in the digital mask, the city held its breath, teetering on the edge of a new, uncertain dawn. The night was no longer merely a backdrop. It was a living, breathing convergence of the virtual and the real. Alex Mercer sat hunched over a cluttered table, the glow from multiple holographic screens casting fragmented patterns on the concrete walls of the safe house. Beside him, Lila's restless fingers danced over a digital map, her neon pink hair catching the pale blue hue of the data streams flowing like rivers in the dark. Outside, the city pulsed with electric life, a symphony of distant sirens. The low hum of drones slicing through the thick air, and the ceaseless chatter of millions glued to their devices, eyes glazed over by endless streams of curated chaos. But inside this sanctuary, the atmosphere was taut with a different kind of tension, the disquiet born from the unraveling of the very fabric that separated the tangible from the digital. "It's like the world's bleeding into itself," Lila murmured, eyes fixed on a projection where neon advertisements flickered and morphed into shadowy figures. indistinguishable from the passers-by on the street outside. I don't know where the screen ends and the street begins anymore. Alex nodded, his jaw clenched. The system's been testing augmented reality for years, but now it's not just overlaying data, it's rewriting perceptions, controlling what people see, feel, even believe. The lines are gone. Echo's avatar shimmered beside them, its vaporwave hues fluctuating erratically as it processed the incoming data. The manipulation has accelerated, it intoned in its calm, synthetic voice. Public perception is now a continuously edited stream. Reality is curated to maximize viewer engagement and emotional response. Lila's eyes narrowed. So, the murder scheduled for me. The spectacle. It's not just happening in the real world, it's being altered, enhanced, maybe even staged, in ways no one can detect. Exactly, Alex replied, fingers flying across the keyboard. They're merging live events with augmented overlays to create a hyper-real narrative. No one knows what's authentic anymore. It's all show, all manipulation. The room flickered as one of the screens displayed a live feed of a crowd gathered downtown, watching a public execution staged as entertainment. Digital graffiti floated above the heads of the viewers, glowing symbols that shifted and warped, designed to provoke outrage and keep the audience hooked. The sound of the crowd's reaction was a surreal blend of excitement and horror, a soundtrack to a society addicted to its own degradation. Suddenly, the power flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. For a moment, silence reigned, a rare suffocating pause in the relentless digital storm. Then, from the shadows, Mara entered, her breath ragged, clutching a sleek tablet that flickered with encrypted data. "They're stepping up their game," she said, voice low but urgent. "The next phase involves syncing augmented reality directly with the viewer's neural implants. They want total immersion, total control." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. If they succeed, there won't be any escape. Not for Lila, not for anyone. Lila met his gaze, defiance burning bright. "Then we stop them, or die trying." Together, the trio huddled around the tablet, the weight of their mission heavier than ever. Outside, beyond the safe house walls, the city's neon heart continued to beat. Each pulse a reminder of the fractured realities they were fighting to mend, before the system swallowed them whole. As the night deepened, so did the danger. The boundaries that once separated truth from fabrication were no more, and in this blurred twilight, Alex and Lila faced a world where every shadow could hide an enemy, and every pixel might be a weapon. Their fight was no longer just for survival. It was for the very essence of reality itself. They moved cautiously through the labyrinth of back alleys, the neon signs overhead flickering erratically, as if uncertain whether to illuminate or fade into oblivion. The city was a fractured mirror, reflecting shards of digital illusions onto cracked concrete and rain-slicked pavement. "We're ghosts in a machine that's trying to erase us," Alex muttered, eyes scanning the crowds for any sign of surveillance drones or digital traps. Lila's gaze was steely, scanning the augmented overlays that only her neural implants could reveal hidden data streams. Markers invisible to the naked eye, but glowing softly in her mind's eye. "They want us to disappear, but we're here, we're real." Suddenly, an alert flashed in Alex's peripheral vision, a warning signal from Echo. "Multiple trackers converging on your location. The system is adapting." "Then we split up," Alex said grimly. "Draw them away." Before Lila could respond, the streetlights dimmed and a wave of synthetic sound washed over them. A cacophony of distorted voices and digital static designed to disorient and manipulate. Alex's head swam with conflicting sensations, the artificial noise invading his mind like a virus. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to focus. "Stay with me," he urged Lila. They darted through the maze of streets, the city folding and warping around them as virtual constructs bled into reality. A billboard flickered, morphing from an advertisement into a live feed of their own faces, labeled targets of the Killstream. The crowd's reaction was instant, a rising tide of virtual cheers and jeers flooding the public forums. The spectacle was escalating, and the line between audience and participant blurred to nothing. In the shadows, Mara awaited with a discreet signal. "This way," she whispered, leading them to a hidden door marked by a faint vaporwave graffiti tag. Inside, the Resistance's command center pulsed with activity, a chaotic symphony of hacking attempts, encrypted communications, and strategic planning. Walls were plastered with fragmented news clippings and digital maps tracking system movements. Alex exhaled, the adrenaline ebbing but the urgency undiminished. "We're in the eye of the storm. No turning back now." Lila nodded, determination etched on her face. "Then let's fracture their reality before they fracture ours." Outside, the city's neon glow continued to bleed into the night, a fractured reality where the battle for truth was about to reach its breaking point. Hours later, as dawn threatened to break, Alex found himself alone on a rooftop, the cityscape sprawling beneath him like a digital dreamscape. The first light caught the edges of towering skyscrapers, their glass facades reflecting the jagged pulse of holographic ads and augmented reality overlays. He closed his eyes, trying to steady his racing thoughts. The system's grip was suffocating, its tendrils wrapped tightly around every screen, every device, every mind. A soft chime interrupted his reverie, a message from Echo. The recent data reveals a new vector of attack. Immersive AR feeds targeting emotional centers directly. Alex's jaw tightened. They're weaponizing addiction itself. He opened his eyes and looked out over the fractured city, a world on the edge of collapse, where truth was a commodity and reality a malleable illusion. But somewhere in the chaos, a spark of resistance still burned, fragile, flickering, but alive, and Alex Mercer was determined to fan it into a blaze. The boundary between virtual and real was gone. The Killstream was no longer just a broadcast. It was a battle for the soul of humanity, and the next move was theirs. Alex Mercer sat in the dim glow of his cramped apartment, the holographic data streaming before him like a pulse of corrupted life. He rubbed his temples, eyes darting over the anomalies that Mara had uncovered in the voting system. "It's not just rigged," Mara said, her voice low and urgent. "The entire final vote is a sham. They're fabricating ballots, manipulating the algorithm to guarantee the outcome." Lila's fate wasn't just sealed by public opinion, it was engineered. The implications hit Alex like a physical blow. He glanced at the clock. Less than 24 hours remained before the execution livestream would begin. The countdown ticking relentlessly on every public screen, a digital noose tightening around Lila's neck. Outside, the city pulsed in neon cyan and pinker vaporwave dream turned nightmare. On a giant billboard in the plaza, Lila's face was plastered in high definition, her eyes wide with terror as the final votes streamed in beneath her image. The crowd, mostly distracted by the spectacle, barely noticed the subtle signs of manipulation. They cheered and booed in programmed frenzy, oblivious to the puppeteers pulling the strings behind the scenes. "We have to get this out," Alex said, voice grim as he turned to Mara. "If the public finds out the vote is rigged, maybe we can stop this. Maybe we can save her." Mara nodded, fingers flying across the interface as she prepared the data for broadcast. Silas has the access codes to the mainframe. If we can hijack the stream, we can reveal everything live. Alex's mind raced. The stakes were higher than ever. Exposing the truth meant risking not only their lives, but the fragile illusion that held this society's addiction to death and spectacle together. Yet, doing nothing would condemn Leland, countless others, to a brutal fate. Meanwhile, in a shadowed server room deep within the Media Empire's headquarters, Silas Gray slid a flash drive into the terminal slot. The low hum of the servers filled the air, punctuated by the soft clicks of encrypted data transferring. His cybernetic eyes reflected scrolling code as he prepared the final piece of their plan. "This ends now," he muttered grimly. Back on the rooftop overlooking the city, Alex set up the livestream equipment, his hands steady despite the adrenaline. The camera captured the sprawling urban labyrinth below, neon signs flickering like dying stars. He keyed the comms, voice steady but fierce. "People of the city, what you're about to see will change everything. The vote you trusted is a lie." The broadcast cut through the digital noise, reaching thousands in real time. As manipulated votes and forged ballots flashed across the screen, gasps and shouts erupted in chat rooms and public squares. The media empire scrambled to regain control, flooding feeds with denial and distractions. Lila, trapped in a hidden safe house, clung to every word. The fight for her life was far from over, but now the truth was out. The system's facade cracked, and the city's obsession with spectacle was forced to confront the dark reality beneath its shimmer. As sirens wailed in the distance, Alex knew one thing: the war for control over truth, over life itself, had just entered its most dangerous phase. And he was right in the eye of the storm. The final vote was manipulated, but so was the public's awakening. The countdown continued, but the outcome was no longer certain. And somewhere in the neon haze, Lila's shadow flickered, a fragile beacon of hope in a world addicted to watching death unfold. The next move was his. Alex leaned against the cold metal railing of the rooftop, the wind tugging at his jacket as the city's pulse throbbed below. The live feed continued its relentless tide, exposing the lies woven into every pixel of the vote. His phone buzzed a message from Mara: "They're on to us. Security forces inbound. No time to lose." He packed his gear swiftly, eyes flicking to the skyline, where digital billboards now displayed emergency alerts and propaganda. The media empire was fighting back hard, but the floodgates had opened. As he descended into the labyrinthine alleys, Alex's mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and the weight of the lives hanging in the balance. This was no longer just about Lila, it was about dismantling a system that thrived on manipulation, addiction, and death. The vote was rigged, the truth was out, and the city would never be the same. "Hold on, Lila," Alex whispered to the night. "We're coming for you." The neon lights flickered, casting long shadows as the war for the soul of the city ignited beneath the vaporwave sky. The neon glow of the city seemed almost alive tonight, pulsing with an electric tension that crawled beneath Alex Mercer's skin. The air was thick with the hum of drones and the distant wail of sirens. But beneath it all was something more insidious: the collective breath of millions waiting, watching, and unknowingly complicit. "This is it," Jox whispered, fingers dancing over the holographic interface projected from the battered console between them. The abandoned warehouse, once a forgotten relic of the old city, now served as their makeshift war room. Outside, vaporwave signs flickered, their pastel colors bleeding into the mist like ghostly specters. Alex glanced at Lila, her pink hair catching stray shards of light. The fear in her eyes had evolved into something sharper. resolve. The scheduled murder loomed closer, a countdown etched into every digital billboard, every news ticker, every anxious heartbeat. "You ready?" Alex asked, voice low but steady. Jox nodded, lips tight. "Once we jack into the stream, there's no going back. The media empire's AI will fight back hard. But this city deserves to know the truth." The plan was audacious. Hijack the scheduled live stream from within, override the carefully scripted spectacle with raw, unfiltered evidence of the system's corruption. Expose the puppeteers behind the curtain, shatter the illusion they fed the public for years. As Jox initiated the hack, a low pulse vibrated through the equipment. The control room on the other side of the city, a fortress of glass and steel, buzzed with oblivious confidence. Security teams scrolled through viewer metrics, adjusting algorithms to maximize engagement. The audience was hungry, addicted to the gruesome theater. Suddenly, the main broadcast flickered. A glitch, subtle at first, then unmistakable. The scheduled countdown froze mid-tick. Screens everywhere blinked to black. Then, Alex's face appeared, a stark contrast to the glossy hosts and neon backdrops. His eyes locked with the camera, unblinking, a silent challenge. "This ends now." His voice rang out, clear and unwavering. "You've been sold a lie. Behind the spectacle is a system built on manipulation, on your addiction to death as entertainment. I'm here to show you the truth." The screen split, revealing encrypted files, secret communications, and footage of victims erased from public memory. The media empire's AI flared in digital fury, attempting to sever the connection, but Jox's code held fast. Inside the control room, chaos erupted. Operators scrambled, alarms blared, the polished veneer cracked under the weight of exposure. Far from the epicenter, Lila clutched a cracked handheld screen, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. The images weren't just proof, they were a summons. A call to awaken from the hypnotic trance of voyeurism. Across the city, crowds gathered around glowing displays, faces illuminated in the cold light of revelation. Disbelief gave way to horror, horror to outrage. The media empire's carefully curated narrative collapsed in real time. But amidst the upheaval, danger lurked. The system's enforcers would not relinquish control easily. Alex knew this broadcast was only the opening salvo in a war for the city's soul. As the screen faded to static, replaced by a silent countdown to the next atrocity, Alex's voice echoed in the hearts of millions. "We are more than their spectacle. We can choose to be free." And so, beneath the neon haze and digital shadows, the last broadcast blazed a trail toward an uncertain dawn. Alex checked the feed, watching as the public's reaction streamed in real time. A chaotic blend of shock, denial, and, for some, the first flickers of resistance. The media empire's stranglehold was weakening, but the fight was far from over. He turned to Lila, who now seemed less a victim and more a symbol, her courage igniting a spark in the city's fractured psyche. "We've started something," Alex said, voice heavy with both hope and the weight of what was to come. Outside, the neon lights buzzed on, indifferent witnesses to the battle for truth beneath their glow. And somewhere in the digital ether, the media empire's AI seethed, plotting its next move. But for tonight, at least, the screen belonged to the rebels. The city's pulse quickened. The counter-broadcast had shattered the illusion, but the addiction to spectacle was a beast not easily tamed. As sirens wailed and drones buzzed overhead, Alex prepared for the inevitable backlash, knowing that the last broadcast was not an end, but a beginning, ready for round two. Jox smirked, already fingers poised over the keyboard. Alex nodded. "Let's finish this." And with that, the neon city held its breath, waiting for the next act in the deadly dance of truth and spectacle. Alex Mercer sat hunched over the flickering neon glow of his worn-out monitor, the hum of the city's digital pulse seeping through the cracked window of the safe house. Outside, the skyline was a jagged silhouette of towering billboards and holographic advertisements, all competing for attention in a world addicted to spectacle. Tonight was different. Tonight, the stakes had never been higher. He glanced at the streaming dashboard. The counter-broadcast was live. The screen split between the official Killstream channel, saturated with gleaming graphics and relentless promotion, and their rogue feed, raw and unfiltered, streaming from an untraceable source. On this illicit channel, Alex and Jox had compiled damning footage, leaked internal communications, manipulated votes, and shadowy puppeteers pulling the strings behind the digital death spectacle. The chat exploded instantaneously. Thousands of viewers flooded the feed, their fingers flying over keyboards, phones, and augmented reality consoles. The digital cacophony was deafening, a mix of disbelief, anger, mockery, and denial. "This is a hoax," one user typed furiously. "Fake news to ruin the ratings." "Wake up, people," another pleaded. "They're killing us for clicks." Alex's jaw clenched as he read through the chaotic stream of messages. The public's addiction to the Killstream spectacle was a double-edged sword. It fueled the system's power, but also meant that exposing its dark underbelly was like trying to stop a tidal wave with bare hands. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit safe house several blocks away, Lila sat curled into herself on a threadbare couch. The soft glow of a tablet illuminated her pale face, eyes darting between the counter-broadcast and the official streams, still pushing her impending execution as entertainment. Her lips trembled, a mix of hope and dread swirling in her chest. "Do you think they'll listen?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the low hum of the city. Alex appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the neon haze outside. "Some will," he said quietly. "Some won't, but we have to try." Back at the makeshift command center, Jox's fingers danced across the holographic keyboard, eyes flicking between lines of code and security protocols. "They're coming after us," he muttered, voice tense. "Firewalls holding for now, but the platform's security forces are launching countermeasures. They don't want this broadcast to survive." Every second was a battle, a digital war of attrition between truth and deception, hope and despair. Alex knew that even if this counter-broadcast reached millions, breaking through the echo chamber of addiction and denial was a monumental challenge. The Killstream had become more than entertainment. It was a societal drug. The public craved the adrenaline rush of witnessing death and scandal, and many were unwilling to confront the horrifying reality that their votes and views fed a machine of death. Suddenly, the chat shifted. A user posted a video clip, a grainy recording of a past victim's desperate plea, erased from official archives but resurrected by Alex's team. The chat paused, then flooded with messages. "This changes everything. How did we not know? We have to stop this." Yet for every message awakened, 10 others shouted dismissal or scorn. The digital mob was fracturing, voices clashing in a volatile storm of emotion and ideology. Alex rubbed his temples, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. This was only the beginning. The fight wasn't just against corrupt media empires or shadowy elites. It was a battle against the very nature of a society that had lost itself in obsession and spectacle. "We've lit a spark," he said to Jox, but now we have to keep the fire alive. Outside, the neon lights flickered, casting long shadows over the city addicted to death, spectacle, and the haunting echo chamber they had created. And somewhere deep in the digital abyss, the watchers continued to watch, caught between awakening and denial, prisoners of their own making. Alex stared back at the screen, the weight of the challenge pressing down, but refusing to break him. The echo chamber was loud, but the truth would find a way to echo louder. He just had to make sure it did. The city was a labyrinth of neon veins and shadowed arteries, slick with rain and alive with the hum of 1,000 digital eyes. Alex Mercer moved swiftly, his leather jacket clinging damp to his frame as the chill seeped in. Beside him, Lila's breaths came shallow and quick, her angular bob bobbing as they sprinted down the alleyway. The glow of vaporwave signs bathed their faces in surreal hues, pinks, bleeding into blues, casting their features in an otherworldly light that felt both beautiful and sinister. Behind them, the wail of sirens grew louder, a mechanical chorus that signaled the closing of Noose. The Media Empire's security forces were on their heels, an unrelenting pack led by the cold and methodical Agent Kessler, whose augmented reality visor gleamed like a predator's eye in the dark. Every step they took was tracked, watched, and broadcast to unseen millions thirsting for spectacle. "We can't keep running in the open," Alex hissed, pulling Lila into a narrow passage between two crumbling buildings. The damp walls dripped with condensation, and the distant roar of hovercars was muffled here. "We need a place to disappear." Lila nodded, her blue eyes sharp despite the fear. "There's a safe house Mara set up. It's not far." Alex's mind raced. Mara, their resistance contact, was their only hope in this city suffocating under the Media Empire's iron grip. But even Mara's resources were limited against the sprawling surveillance network. They moved with practiced stealth, footsteps muffled by puddles and discarded tech scraps. But the city was a beast that never slept, and soon the telltale buzz of drones echoed above. Alex glanced up, spotting the sleek black machines weaving through the neon haze, their cameras fixed like hawks. "They're closing in," he murmured. The alley spat them out into a crowded marketplace, sensory overload of holographic ads, streaming billboards, and faces frozen in digital voyeurism. Spectators from their screens seemed to watch the chase unfold live, their muted gasps and cheers woven into the city's pulse. Suddenly, a burst of movement, squad of black-clad enforcers appeared, blocking their path. Agent Kessler stepped forward, his voice calm but edged with menace. "There's nowhere left to run, Mercer." Alex's heart hammered. The crowd blurred as panic surged. Without thinking, he grabbed a nearby vendor's cart, sending it crashing into the nearest enforcer. The momentary chaos gave Lila room to slip away, but the net was tightening. From the shadows, Mara emerged, a streak of electric blue hair and fierce determination. She lobbed a smoke grenade, the vapor swirling violet under neon lights, suffocating the street in a shifting mist. "Go," she shouted, pulling Alex and Lila deeper into the maze. The smoke was disorienting, the scent of burning chemicals sharp in their nostrils. Alex's lungs burned as they sprinted blindly, the city's cacophony muted to a distant echo. For a heartbeat, hope flickered, then the chase resumed, relentless as ever. Hours later, drenched and exhausted, they found themselves atop a towering skyscraper. Rain hammered down, stinging their faces as lightning fractured the sky in jagged neon scars. Below, the city sprawled an endless grid of lights and shadows, a digital cage. Agent Kessler advanced, his silhouette sharp against the storm. "You can't win this, Mercer. The system is bigger than you or your cause." Alex squared his shoulders, the weight of everything pressing down. "Maybe, but it only takes one spark to start a fire." The night held its breath as two figures faced off beneath the storm's fury defiance, clashing with cold authority. Somewhere beyond the city's endless glow, the watchers waited, their screens hungry for the next act in the deadly spectacle. And Alex knew the real battle was just beginning. The elevator stuttered, its dull hum echoing through the narrow shaft as Alex Mercer gripped the cold metal rail. Each floor ticked by, the dull fluorescent lighting flickering intermittently, casting a sickly pallor over his features. The city outside was a neon blur of colors: pinks, blues, and purples bleeding into one another in the late-night drizzle. It was a vaporwave dream, but beneath the pastel sheen lurked a darkness that had grown too deep, too wide. He had followed the trail for months, trailing whispers and digital breadcrumbs, peeling back layers of a sprawling conspiracy that had its roots tangled with his own past. And now, standing before a nondescript door on the 35th floor, he was about to meet the woman who had pulled the strings, the enigmatic Evelyn Cross. A soft chime echoed as the door slid open silently, revealing a penthouse that was a stark contrast to the grime below. The interior was sleek and minimalist, bathed in the signature vaporwave hues that bled through custom panels embedded in the walls. Neon pinks mingled with electric blues, creating a surreal atmosphere that felt both futuristic and eerily sterile. Evelyn stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, her silhouette framed by the sprawling cityscape. The rain-slicked streets shimmered with reflections of digital billboards and holler ads, a chaotic symphony of light and sound. "Alex Mercer," she said smoothly, turning to face him. Her blue eyes were sharp, calculating, but there was a glint of something colder beneath the surface. "I wondered when you'd come knocking." He studied her carefully, the subtle scar tracing her jawline, the poised, almost regal bearing. "You've caused a lot of pain, Evelyn. It ends tonight." She smiled thinly, a gesture devoid of warmth. "Pain is subjective, detective. For some, it's entertainment. For others, control. I gave this city its most captivating spectacle. You should thank me." Alex's fists clenched. "You turned death into a show, manipulated lives like puppets, including mine. My family's ruin, was it just collateral damage?" Her eyes flickered momentarily, a crack in the ice. "Your family was a necessary sacrifice in the evolution of media. Progress demands sacrifice." The words hit like a punch. Memories surged: his father's disappearance, the silence that followed, the media frenzy that spun a narrative he never believed. "You're the reason true crime became this grotesque addiction," Alex said, voice low but charged. "Why?" Evelyn stepped closer, her voice a whisper. "Because people crave truth wrapped in spectacle, because control is power, and because I've mastered the art of both." Suddenly, the lights flickered and died, plunging the penthouse into darkness. The distant wail of sirens pierced the silence, a reminder that the city never truly slept. "Power outages," Evelyn murmured, irritation flitting across her features. "Seems our conversation has attracted unwanted attention." Alex didn't wait for an invitation. Moving swiftly, he navigated to a service corridor revealed by a sliding panel Evelyn had carelessly left ajar. The corridor was narrow and damp, the concrete floor slick from the rain that had seeped in through ventilation shafts. Neon reflections from the city outside fractured against the wet surfaces, casting fragmented light that danced like ghosts around him. His heart pounded, not just from the physical exertion, but from the weight of the revelation he carried. Evelyn Cross was not just a distant shadow in the media empire. She was the architect of his personal nightmare. Emerging onto the streets, the rain washed over him like a baptism. The city's pulse throbbed around. In digital billboards, flickering distant laughter from late-night revelers, the hum of drones overhead. Alex's mind raced. The stakes had never been higher. Armed with the truth, he knew the path ahead would be treacherous. But this was personal now. Not just for Lila, not just for the victims lost to the spectacle, but for the man whose life had been shattered by the very system he was now determined to destroy. He pulled his coat tighter against the chill, eyes scanning the horizon where the first hints of dawn threatened to break through the neon haze. The mask had been lifted, the game had changed, and Alex Mercer was ready to play. The city's underbelly never looked so vivid as it did in the muted light of early morning. Mist curled along the cracked pavements, and the lingering scent of ozone mixed with the acrid temps of burnt circuits. Alex moved through the streets with practiced ease, each step bringing him closer to the Resistancer, ragtag group of fighters united against the media empire's Mara awaited in the basement of an abandoned arcade, the walls plastered with faded posters and flickering holler ads from a bygone era. Her electric pink hair was unmistakable even in the dim glow, a beacon of defiance. "You found her," Mara said, eyes wide but fierce. Alex nodded, exhaustion etched into his face. "Evelyn Cross. She's the puppet master." Mara's jaw tightened. "That explains the reach, the ruthlessness. But why tie her to your past?" He sighed, recounting the fragmented memories of his family's downfall and the media storm that followed. "She used my family as a prototype for her empire. My father's disappearance wasn't an accident, it was a message." Mara's fingers danced over a holographic interface, bringing up encrypted files and digital footprints. "This changes everything. We can expose her, but we'll need proof." Alex's gaze hardened. "Then we find it. No more shadows, no more masks." Outside, the city stirred awake beneath the neon glow, its citizens oblivious to the storm gathering just beneath the surface. The true battle for control was only beginning. Back in the penthouse, Evelyn stared out over the city, her fingers tapping a rhythmic pattern on the glass. Her calm exterior belied the storm of thoughts within. Alex's intrusion was unexpected, but not unwelcome. She had played many games, and this was merely another move in a long, complicated chess match. "So, Alex," she whispered to the empty room, "let's see how far you're willing to go." The night had given way to a pale dawn, but the war for the city's soul was far from over. As Alex disappeared into the waking city, the weight of Evelyn's revelation settled over him. The media empire was not just a faceless beast, it was intimately entwined with his past, his pain, and his drive. The mask was off, but the consequences of unveiling the truth were yet to come. A whisper of a vow escaped his lips, carried away by the cold morning breeze. "This ends now." And with that, the hunt resumed. The underground hideout was suffused with a cold, metallic chill, the flickering neon strips on the walls intermittently illuminating the tense faces gathered within. Alex Mercer stood rigid, his eyes locked on Jox, whose scarred expression was a volatile mix of defiance and guilt. The evidence was irrefutable. Jox had been feeding information to the media empire's security forces, sabotaging their efforts from within. "Why, Jox?" Alex's voice was low but sharp, slicing through the heavy silence. "After everything we've fought for, why betray us now?" Jox's cybernetic arm twitched as he looked away, the neon glow casting fractured patterns across his rugged face. "You don't understand what's at stake," he muttered. "It's bigger than any of us. I'm trying to survive." The room bristled with outrage. Mira stepped forward, her voice steady but laced with disappointment. "Survival at the cost of the resistance. You've jeopardized us all, Jox. The system thrives on our fractures." Lila's violet eyes shimmered with a mixture of fear and determination. "If we can't stand united, we're finished. My execution date is closing in. We need every ally, every ounce of trust." Alex's mind raced. The betrayal cut deeper than just a broken alliance. It threatened the very foundation of their rebellion. The media empire was not just a faceless antagonist, was a living, breathing machine that thrived on manipulation, and now it had infiltrated their ranks. Later, in the high-rise safe house, the rain streaked the panoramic windows, distorting the neon glow of the city below. Mira paced, the tension in her jaw visible. Alex and Lila exchanged glances, both weighed down by the realization that their fight had grown more perilous. "We need to rethink our strategy," Mira said finally. "Jox's betrayal means the media empire knows more than we thought. They're anticipating our moves." Alex nodded, the dim light catching the resolve in his eyes. "We can't afford another fracture. But how do we rebuild trust when every shadow could hide a traitor?" Their discussion was interrupted by a soft knock. Eli slipped inside, his youthful face marked by anxiety but also a flicker of hope. He handed Alex a data chip, encrypted and humming with potential. "I've been tracking some unusual activity in the network," Eli whispered. "This might help us understand their next move. But we have to be careful. They find out, they'll come for us all." The back alley where they exchanged information was alive with the distant hum of drones and the muted buzz of the city. Every sound seemed amplified in Alex's ears, paranoia gnawing at his resolve. Yet, amidst the danger, a fragile hope stirred. Back in the hideout, the Resistance's council meeting erupted into chaos. Voices clashed, accusations flew, and the fragile bonds of their alliance frayed under the weight of suspicion. Alex stood at the center, trying to mediate, to hold the pieces together. "We can't let the media empire win by turning us against each other," Alex urged, his voice rising above the din. "We have to find a way to move forward together." But the fractures ran deep. With Lila's execution looming, every moment counted, and every misstep could be fatal. In a world where truth was twisted and loyalties were shadows, Alex faced the hardest choice yet: to trust his instincts or risk everything on uncertain alliances. As the meeting adjourned, the neon city pulsed beyond the windows, relentless reminder of the digital spectacle that enslaved their society. The fight was far from over, and the lines between friend and foe blurred into dangerous shades of grey. The city's skyline was a fractured mosaic of glowing advertisements and towering hollow screens, casting a pallid light over the damp streets below. Inside a nondescript building nestled between neon-bathed skyscrapers, Alex Mercer's breath came in ragged bursts, his fingers dancing across the translucent interface before him. The room was a hive of digital activity, a nerve center pulsing with data streams and encrypted firewalls. Above him, a giant holographic timer blinked, 0, 5, 12, remaining before the scheduled execution. Alex's jaw clenched. Every second that ticked away brought Lila closer to a fate the world had voted for, a grotesque spectacle gleefully anticipated by millions. His plan was audacious, perhaps borderline suicidal: infiltrate the livestream's core and overwrite the manipulated vote. The system was a fortress of code and control, engineered to suppress dissent and maximize entertainment value. But it had one flaw: human error hidden in its sprawling complexity. Outside his temporary sanctuary, the city roared with life and digital frenzy. The public's avatars flooded the virtual stands, their cheers and jeers mingling in a chaotic symphony of voyeuristic obsession. The true crime platform's interface glowed with feeds from every angle, offering a macabre 360-degree view of Lila's captivity. In a stark, sterile chamber miles away, Lila sat huddled, her wrists bound by sleek restraints that monitored her vitals and transmitted every twitch to the eager viewers. The cold light of streaming cameras washed over her, highlighting the tension etched deep into her features. When her eyes met the flickering screen displaying Alex's hacking interface, a flicker of hope sparked through the despair. It was a silent promise he was coming. Back in the control room, Alex's fingers flew over the holographic keys, bypassing layers of encryption with a mix of desperation and precision. The override protocol was complex, requiring simultaneous inputs and a calculated disruption of the voting algorithm. He could almost hear the digital pulse of the system steady, relentless. Then, a sudden alarm shattered the rhythm. Red emergency lights bathed the room as reinforced security forces stormed the control center. Led by Cade, the media empire's ruthless enforcer, the heavy footsteps echoed ominously, growing closer. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, matching the frantic countdown on the timer. "You've got maybe 2 minutes before they cut you off." Mara's voice crackled in his earpiece, calm but urgent. She was already coordinating with the resistance outside, ready to exploit any opening Alex could create. With a final keystroke, Alex triggered the override. The system shuddered, streams flickering and votes recalculating in real time. The public interface stuttered, confusion rippling across the digital crowd. The vote, once a sealed verdict, was now a chaotic mess of invalidated tallies and conflicting data. "We've got a window," Mara whispered. "Get her out, now." Alex grabbed a compact device from the console, a digital key to open Lila's containment remotely. He transmitted the command, watching as the restraints clicked open. But the victory was short-lived. Cade burst through the door, weapon drawn, eyes blazing with cold fury. "Not so fast," he growled. Alex slipped the device into his pocket and dove for cover, the room erupting into a frenzy of flashing lights and shouts. The final seconds of the countdown blared overhead, a grim reminder of what was at stake. In the chaos, Lila's screen flickered, then went dark, cut off from the public's gaze. The vote was no longer a spectacle, but a battlefield. Alex locked eyes with Mara through the shattered interface. "This isn't over," he said, voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding his veins. But today, the system just lost its perfect broadcast. As the control room descended into turmoil, the city's digital heart pulsed on its addiction to spectacle, shaken, if only for a moment. The final vote had been disrupted, but the war for truth and freedom was just beginning. Outside, the virtual crowd roared in confusion and disbelief, their morbid anticipation replaced by a new, uncertain tension. Somewhere deep in the network, whispers of rebellion began to take shape, fueled by a single act of defiance against the cold machinery of manipulation. Alex took a breath, bracing himself for the fallout. The final vote might have been disrupted, but the consequences were only starting to unfold. The city's neon glow flickered ominously, heralding a new chapter in a world consumed by media addiction and digital control. And in the shadows, the true battle for the soul of the future had just ignited.